Week 2 is officially in the books, and welcome inside the vault for a Ravens post-game live stream just after 5 o'clock Eastern on the 14th of September. Baltimore, Sarah, on the 30th anniversary celebration day of this franchise's inception, runs away from the Cleveland Browns quite literally, and what we'll get into over the course of the next hour plus. 41-17 is the final. The Ravens improved to 1-1. The Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football, Sarah, await Week 3. Going to be a lot of fun getting ready for that the second half of this upcoming week. But Cleveland, Sarah, just did not have enough firepower when it was all said and done. We're going to give you our analysis, our thoughts, post-game reaction coming up. If you could on the way in, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership today in celebration of a Ravens win. And Sarah, in celebration of another post-game live stream opportunity, the Ravens home opener, and everything else as this season commences. We want to say thank you to Preston Automotive Group for giving us, to give to you, a Kyle Hamilton signed jersey. Customized, personalized, I should say, signed jersey. So in order to get a head start on that, we will randomly give that away. Coming up later on in the show, you can click the information that's included right now in the show notes. I should say as a pinned comment in the live chat. All you have to do, follow Preston Automotive Group on Instagram and leave a comment with the hashtag Vault. Partner, shall we get into this thing?
Let's get into this thing. It started out with a lot of chatter, Bobby, a lot of chatter coming from Cleveland. And in the end, it turned out to be like a younger brother just chattering and yapping at his older brother. The Ravens remained focused, laser focused, and they couldn't care less about all the talk. They just wanted to prove it on the field. It started out as a defensive slugfest on both sides. But in the second half, it only continued to be a defensive slugfest from the Ravens. The Cleveland Browns had a clear strategy that really the whole league should have, which is first to stop the run. You want to stop Derrick Henry. You want to stop Lamar Jackson using their legs. That is what they did, and their defensive line was clearly superior to the Ravens' offensive line. But the Ravens learned their lesson from the first half. They learned their lesson from last week. They came out, they turned to Lamar and his arm. They got him into more space, getting him to move since the offensive line couldn't block just straight up one-on-one or whatever they were coming up with wasn't working. He ends up throwing 4 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions. Tons of receivers stood out. We'll get to all of them. And most of all, Bobby, they learned their lesson from last week when they had that 15-point lead with just under 5 minutes to go. I know we were all thinking the same thing. We saw that ESPN probability chart. We saw it in about the third quarter when the Ravens were up to 94% win probability to the Cleveland Browns 6%. I'm sure it got better as that third quarter went on and as Lamar Jackson, the offense, kept scoring. We're like, will Todd Monken and the Ravens, John Harbaugh and Zach Orr, keep the foot on the gas? They sure did. Zach Orr kept calling blitzes late into the fourth quarter. And when the Ravens had a 24-point lead, they were throwing the ball. And I heard those commentators, Bobby, they're like, whoa, are you surprised they did that? I'm sure the Browns aren't happy. We don't care about that in Baltimore. We had lessons to learn. Todd Monken went for the jugular. Lamar Jackson found DeAndre Hopkins. The Ravens blew it up. This is what we asked for. Make the other team say, hey, is that good sportsmanship? Should you be running up the score late? Heck yes, they should, because there's been too many double-digit leads that they lost. They didn't do it this time. Ravens come away 41-17.
Oh, that cracked me up. We were thinking the exact same thing as Ross Tucker starts commenting on that, right? And I'm like, Sarah must be losing her mind right now somewhere in Columbus watching this game because you were asking for that. You were like, we'll figure that out when we get there. And I want to have to apologize or worry about everybody criticizing this team and Todd Monken for running up the score rather than the alternative of what we watched a week ago in Buffalo. That cracked me up. I knew you were going to go there. I didn't know you were going to go there immediately off the top of the show. But here we are. The Ravens do exercise some demons, if you will, from the last week or so. It was a very loud one, Sarah, at that, which you commented on, right? I think as we discussed in the days leading up to this, one team sort of came across as a little desperate through the media, if you will, almost trying to manufacture, to use your words, a little bit of inner motivation to get extra up for this, whereas the Ravens handled it in sort of business-like fashion. Derrick Henry wouldn't take the bait in his media press conferences. Kyle Hamilton wouldn't take the bait, and they just came out in very business-like mode, but not necessarily initially. And as you sort of suggested, here are the first half stats from what was a really ugly, classic AFC North first 2 quarters of football. I mean, I'll just rip them off right now. 86 total passing yards for Cleveland to Baltimore's 67. 34 rushing yards for the Browns. Ravens had 14 first half rushing yards, Sarah. They took the 10-3 lead into halftime. Total yards, Cleveland edging Baltimore 120 to 81. How about the yards per play? The Ravens had 3. They averaged 3 yards per play to Cleveland's 3.5 going into halftime. And both teams were just dreadful on third down, as you can see. And there were 11 combined punts between the two. And so you're thinking to yourself, okay, wow, Pat Ricard, his presence continues to be sorely missed. As you mentioned, they're being outmanned or outperformed in the trenches from Cleveland's defensive front. Jim Schwartz has them just stymieing them. I mean, Jim Schwartz and the Browns defense came to play. With that said, Ravens special teams came to play. Ravens defense came to play. And Lamar Jackson's arm came to play. And so I've already seen some comments and some super chats, Sarah, that have popped into our live chat so far that are like, I don't feel great about this win. It's not always going to be pretty in AFC North play. And this is a Cleveland team, Sarah, that defensively speaking, if you go back to that Week 8 game last year, that the Browns upset the Ravens in Cleveland 29-24 with Jameis Winston under center. It was a very similar defensive performance in that from Jim Schwartz's crew. The difference was the Ravens defense didn't show up the way that it did today, creating turnovers, and special teams didn't show up the way that it did today, also putting the offense in a position for success. That's a big difference. And when it comes to in-division play, sometimes you need a little bit of that when things aren't going well like they weren't today, offensively speaking, early in that first half.
This chart that we have up for the first half stats, that's just woof. Where are all my woof emojis? Unless you're a defensive-minded person, then you love this. You absolutely love this. But the Ravens don't want to get caught up in these types of games because their strength is their offense. Their strength is Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But Bobby, this is interesting because the Browns also played very well against the Bengals last week. And we expect the Bengals to be a better offense. Lots of late game drama going on in that game that we'll cover at the end of the show. But what I liked about it is that you could rely on Lamar Jackson's arm when a defensive line was absolutely dominating and when they completely shut down the run. And this is going to be a lot of people's game plans. And why wouldn't it be when you have Lamar and Derrick? But I remember we had on Zach Jackson from The Athletic, who covers the Cleveland Browns. He told us this was going to be their game plan. And I said, but do you think they have the secondary to be able to stop Lamar and the Ravens if they have to switch over to that? He wasn't so sure. And now we know the answer. Lamar had 225 pass yards, the vast majority of this in the second half, by the way. 4 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, and a 128.6 quarterback rating. Bobby, he started in the first half. It seemed like he was a little bit off, wasn't as accurate as we normally see him, seemed a bit frustrated, but I really feel like Todd Monken did a good job of starting to get him in space. He started to scramble a little bit. And you know what? You have to have some pretty good receivers on the other side to help complete Lamar have a good game. Meanwhile, before we get to all those wide receivers, how about the juxtaposition between Lamar and Joe Flacco? Right? Joe Flacco returning to the city that drafted him, returning to the team with whom he won a Super Bowl championship, returning to a town that has so much love for him when he's not a division rival. And he did not have the return that he would have liked. He was taken out when the Ravens went up 41-10. He threw for only 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 65 quarterback passer rating. And so he was pulled. Lamar also got pulled early, but in a good way. Flacco got pulled in a bad way. And, nothing but love for Joe. We see Dennis Pitta pregame, giving him a hug and showing him that putting on that elite T-shirt as he greeted him, and then Lamar and Joe, nothing but love at the end of the game, which is exactly what you would expect. Look at all that. That's a real man hug right there. But in the end, we got the result that we wanted in Baltimore, with Lamar throwing 4 touchdown passes, Lamar having 128 passer rating, and Joe having only 1 touchdown and 1 interception and a 65 passer rating. This is the result we wanted. And still, though, it's all love now that the game is over.
This photo, I mean, what's a capture? A lot more than 1,000 words, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe's successor, of course, somebody that's just taken Baltimore by storm over the last 8 years. And Sarah, as you saw, though, today in Baltimore, not only was it the home opener, not only was it, littered with Ravens legends and Hall of Famers and Super Bowl champions, past and present, and everything that went into what had to have been a magical, magical day with perfect weather, I might add, in Baltimore. But this embrace right here, I think, getting after the feels for the Ravens flock fan base, right? Then and now, hard to believe Joe Flacco at 40 years old, Sarah, still playing. His entire family was in attendance today. He had a ton of family, extended family and friends that were sitting in the bleachers. You mentioned that Dennis Pitta, and we had a photo of him. They're best buds still, obviously, all these years later. Todd Heap, Ray Lewis, Torrey Smith, you name it. All these people came out to pay respect to a guy that is still playing. But as we saw today, Sarah, if you flush him out of the pocket, he's not only not going to find – he did have an 8-yard scramble at one point, I saw, but it's just not the name of his game. It never has been, never will be. And they've pushed him in a position. They put him in a position to turn the football over today, and they put him in pressure. He's not mobile, particularly at this point in his career. I thought Roquan Smith, Sarah, had him running for his life at times. And while they only got him, what was it, twice on the day, 2 sacks on the day, clearly this defense was flying around. We'll get into the specifics when we shift to that side of the ball in the second half of this live stream. But clearly, at some point here, Sarah, I think it's pretty obvious the Browns are going to have to see what they have. Now, they're not going up against the likes of the Ravens every single week, and I'm sure Joe will register a few wins before they ultimately move to evaluating what they have behind him. Because as Zach Jackson said, Sarah, this is a team that is a top 5 draft contending group, and the Ravens are a top 5 Super Bowl contending group. And I think that obviously showed today.
It was so interesting. It wasn't the first time, but it's a reminder when you're on the opposite side of like the game plan that should be played against Joe Flacco. And I think the Ravens did it right. Like, I cannot remember how many times that I was just like, stop checking it down, Joe. Like, he was such a safe quarterback, which was a smart move with the defense that he had. And he has a great defense again with the Cleveland Browns. And it was just like, I just never really quite felt threatened by Joe Flacco today. It was just like they were playing off the receivers at times with some pretty soft coverage. They got through a couple times, but for the most part, Joe wasn't going to like force too many things. And so, he just kept checking down. I'm like, great. Awesome. This is what I hated when he was a Raven. Outside of that 2012 Super Bowl run, he was much more aggressive at that point, but it was a lot of what Joe Flacco would do. And then to your point, while he had that 8-yard scramble, it's not Lamar Jackson on the other side. And there just was no real threat there. And so his game was to play it mostly safe and rely on his defense. Luckily, Roquan Smith forced him into a bad decision on that one interception that Nate Wiggins got. And so it was just interesting to be on the other side of it again, where you're just like, I just don't feel threatened. And I felt like Zach Orr and the defense had the correct game plan against him.
Totally agree. And, I just want to reiterate, the Ravens finished with 47 rushing yards as a team, Sarah. 47 rushing yards. And in a game that's the case, they still put up 41 points.
7 by the defense.
30, call it 34 points.
34 points. But yeah, the team still had 40 plus points second week in a row.
like 34 points, stymied early. How many rushing yards did we say in the first half? 18? 14, excuse me.
14 first half rushing yards.
14 first half rushing yards. They put up 10 points total and only 3 offensively in the first half. Okay. Well, no, excuse me. All of it was the reason why they were able to get that touchdown, though, was because of Jake Hummel's blocked punt. We'll get to special teams in just a bit. Obviously, the offense, all 10 was accounted for by the offense, but you don't get in that position to score points off the Jake Hummel blocked punt without, your special teams ace, your new Chris Board replacement, if you will. And so I think we should just kind of soak that in for a second because they were not at their best today. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, Lamar was not at his best. And you still mentioned at the top, he finishes with a quarterback rating of 128.6. Sarah, I can think of like 3 or 4 errant throws in the first half alone from him. And you had a Rashad Bateman drop at one point. I mean, it was going in a way of like, okay, this is the formula right now for a Browns upset, right? Through 2 quarters, and they came out flying in the second half. They got the ball, and granted, we all know how that first drive started in the second half, and you're thinking, this is the formula for how you keep the Browns in it, for how Cleveland hangs around. And for them to pull away the way they did and hang in there and hang tough and still put up 41 with that special teams contribution, I think this is just it's impressive for it to come in an AFC North game. And I think it for being 2 weeks in, knowing what happened and the hangover that absolutely could have leaked into today, coming off week 1, similarly the way that it did last year against the Raiders, I just think this is a good solid step in the right direction for them. And now they get that extra day of recovery, extra day of preparation to get ready to host the Lions.
Yeah, I think that's totally like, it's a great takeaway to say, hey, 2 weeks in a row, you scored 40 plus points and you did it in 2 completely different ways. And that should, I think 31 other teams can take note of that, because when they're watching film and they're going to be like, okay, what's going to be our game plan? And then you realize, oh crap, when one of the best defenses in the league, and I do think the Browns is one of the best defenses in the league. If one of the best defenses in the league shut down, put together a game plan exactly how we would want to do it, which is to shut down this rushing attack, and yet they still scored 41 points, 34 on offense, that should make other teams nervous. The only thing I'll say, though, Bobby, is I think that Ravens could afford to be patient and not panic on offense, because they knew that Brown's offense and Joe Flacco wasn't going to be a big juggernaut, right? We talked about in the pregame, or in our preview with Zach Jackson. He was like, I don't know if the Browns are ever going to score more than 16 to 17 points total. Okay. So on offense, they could remain patient and not panic. And so it's very nice that they just did that against the Browns, against a very good defense. And at the same time, there are other teams that will have both a good defense and a good offense. And so it'll be imperative for them to be able to do that against a more balanced team, and they can keep their foot on the gas when they do have that lead and all that. So celebrate this win. We said we want to be like, oh, well, the Ravens did what they were supposed to do versus they imploded, right? Because we've seen too many of those implosions. So I'm glad they did what they were supposed to do. So the next step is like, can you do that against a team that's more balanced? It's great that you just did it against one of the best defenses in the league, but what about another team that is more balanced and can actually threaten you offensively?
A lot of macro thoughts offensively to begin the show. Let's get more into some of the micro, and how about the individual performances? And how about the fact that Sarah's second-year wide receiver, a former 4th-round pick out of the University of North Carolina, now has 3 career catches. This time last year, and I should say 3 career touchdowns as well. That's Devontae Walker. And Sarah, this time last year, he was a game day healthy scratch as a rookie. Now he's showing off that 4.36 speed. He's showing off his separation ability. He's showing off his chemistry with Lamar Jackson. And today he hauled in 2 touchdowns. Last year he had 1 all season long. It was that beautiful toe drag touchdown in the end zone, in the back of the end zone, I should say, against the Giants. Today, nice day for 81, Sarah, to lead the way touchdowns wise for this pass catching group.
3 career interceptions. Yeah, 3 career touchdowns.
Interceptions.
I meant receptions. 3 career receptions. Is he getting on defense too? I don't know. Maybe that'll be his next iteration, but this is a great sign for the second-year player. It's a great sign that Lamar trusts him. Bobby, that first touchdown catch, remind me, was that on 4th down? Or could it have been 3rd down?
You're going back to today or the first one last year?
Today, Tez Walker's first touchdown catch.
Let me go and look. You keep with that thought.
Okay, yeah. Well, whether it was on 3rd down or 4th down, I like that Lamar Jackson trusts him back there. The second one, where he just showed off his speed, to your point, is more the type that you kind of expect from Devontae Walker. But the more he puts out on tape and these type of stats are out there, then defensive coordinators are like, oh, well, we got to account for him too. Right now, he might be flying under the radar because most people are like, hey, if we stop Mark Andrews, as it's been in the past. If we stop Mark Andrews, then what's going to happen in this passing game? Okay, well, they added Zay Flowers, who, by the way, did not have one of those highlight reel touchdown catches, but without Zay Flowers, they would not have moved the ball today. He just was such a reliable pass catcher for Lamar Jackson. Absolutely phenomenal. And so, okay, so you've got Mark Andrews. Hopefully Isaiah Likely will be back and they have to account for him. You're having to account for Zay Flowers, of course. Rashad Bateman hasn't come alive just yet, but he showed he was more of a threat last year. And then it's like, wait, now we got to deal with this speedster and Devontae Walker too. Who is this second year player? And so just keep putting more and more out there on tape. Then the defense will have to account for him too and open things up.
To be clear, just to check on that, the first touchdown, yes, it did come on 4th down, an aggressive call there from John Harbaugh, right? He took a lot of heat all week long for strategizing or in-game decision-making on Sunday night against Buffalo. So you had a 2-score lead, Sarah, at the time, and put him to bed. Put him to bed. Lamar could have easily taken it himself on that one, right? As you tweeted and alluded to there. So instead, Devontae Walker cashes in. He's the beneficiary. Zay Flowers, though, leads the way in terms of overall production, receiving yards, and volume-wise. He finishes 7 receptions, 75 yards, Sarah. He had a couple unbelievable grabs out there. The usual quickness and lightning speed and that cutting ability was on full display. There was one specific play, Sarah, that comes to mind when Lamar, just doing what he does, stiff-arming 300-pound defensive lineman. Zay continuing to work, right? What feels like the play is over. No, Zay continues to be relentless, working to get open. And Lamar spares himself a half second by stiff-arming this 300-plus pound man and delivering a laser strike to Zay, who in diving form catches the football. He continues to be reliable. He continues to be a vertical passing attack threat. And as so many have been calling for after last year, he's that north-south runner. Rather than going east to west to try and open up space, he is going north and north, baby. He is northbound. Zay's looking like a bona fide number 1 wide receiver en route to yet another back-to-back Pro Bowl caliber type season. He leads the way with them today, Sarah, in terms of volume, but Devontae Walker cashes in on 2 touchdowns and 2 targets today. So good for him.
I loved that play that you just referenced from Lamar Jackson to Zay Flowers. And I mean, Lamar, had a defensive tackle draped all over him, first on his waist and then at his feet, ankles, and arms, and just like holding on. How Lamar got that off, I do not know. But what I loved about this game is what we're highlighting here is that people are but are more consistently making plays for Lamar too. So if Lamar is going to make magic happen, there has to be a receiver on the other end that's going to make magic happen. So the way Zay came back for that ball and dove for it and just made a play for his quarterback. But how about this guy making a play for his quarterback? How about DeAndre Hopkins making plays, plural, for Lamar Jackson? This one is the one where he got marked down at the 1 or about the half-yard line. I know some people feel like Lamar and DeAndre were robbed on this one. It did seem to me that he was down right before he rolled in, but I need to go back and look to see if he was touched. But Bobby, here's what I noticed about almost all the throws that Lamar Jackson has made to DeAndre Hopkins. When Lamar throws it, DeAndre's not open. He's not open at all. Like this first, so I've got like a three timeline here, 3 screen grab timeline for the first throw to DeAndre Hopkins, which was for 42 yards, something crazy like that.
Right out of half.
Right out of half. And look at this. When the ball is in the air, okay, this first screen grab all the way to the left, the ball's already in the air and he's completely blanketed. I can only imagine what DeAndre was looking like when Lamar actually threw it, because at this point, the ball's already in the air and he is not open. Then you go to the middle screen grab and he's starting to get a little bit more open and he just knows how to like dive underneath. He sneaks underneath these cornerbacks and he gets it right before it's supposed to hit the ground when it's already gone past the cornerback. So there he is there grabbing it at the 1 yard line. And then he did it again where he's like, it's the shrugging arms emoji, shrugging shoulders emoji, where he caught the next one in the actual end zone. So now he's got 2 games as a Raven. He's got 2 touchdowns, both of them contested catches touchdowns. We see this one here against the Bills from last week. And it's just like Lamar Jackson said it afterwards. He said, yeah, I believe a lot of people have been calling him washed. He's like, I think he's showing otherwise here. And we've said it time and time again. He's not going to be the volume-based receiver, but he is going to be the contested catches, move the chains, score a touchdown, be clutch for Lamar Jackson. And I love the chemistry that these two already have from day one it began, and we're seeing it now in week 2.
So far, so good, I think, in terms of the Nelson Aguilar replacement role that he was supposed to fulfill for wide receiver 3. Again, to your point, he's not the high volume guy that he once was, and the Ravens aren't paying him to be, nor do they need him to be. And Sarah, you're onto something here with that whole sort of like timeline of the catch collage that you put together. He's so savvy with his spacing. He's so aware of the way that these defensive backs for 10 plus years have played him, that even if it's just an inch, he's going to take a mile and trying to find a way to haul in footballs. 2 catches for 64 yards today. You already know Lamar was going back to him, Sarah, when he was ultimately, after review, down at the half-yard line or whatever, like you said. A long of 41. He's still got that ability to win. And even if it is just a little separation right there, he's going to find a way to bring the football in. So, again, D-Hop, again, he was brought in here to provide stability to the room, to bring in that savvy, to bring in that experience, to bring in the contested catch ability, right? But ultimately, to be that red zone threat. And as we've seen now back-to-back weeks, it may not be high volume, but it's going to be high quality from Nuke, and good start for his Ravens career.
And one last receiver maybe we can get to before we get to Super Chats is Tylan Wallace, who was in there early. First of all, he's a gamer. Tylan Wallace is a gamer. Remember on the scoring touchdown drive before the half. So it's the one, I think it's one that they had before the half. And Derek Hunt, no. What's the one before the half? I got to look up when Tylan Wallace scored. But right before he scored, Derrick Henry fumbled again. Remember, Derrick Henry had 1 lost fumble all of last year. He had 3 fumbles, but only 1 was lost last year. He now has 2 fumbles, 1 lost this year. And the reason why it wasn't lost this week is because Tylan Wallace was the one to recover it. And then on the next play, Wallace got rewarded by Lamar Jackson because he hit him for a 15-yard touchdown. And so that was off of the blocked punt. Remember, there was that blocked punt by Jake Hummel. So Ravens were trying to take advantage. Derrick Henry gets punched out. Tylan Wallace recovers. Then Tylan Wallace scores. Tylan Wallace, man, there's always at least one per year. I hope it's not the only one. There's always one per year where Tylan Wallace balls out on a drive, whether it's a punt return or something else. And it was like, woo, you just really saved the Ravens from going into a deep hole early, or just like get the momentum taken out of them after that blocked punt. He was able to save the day and then again, save it again by getting this touchdown score.
And I've got him at a second quarter touchdown there from Tylan Wallace.
So it was before.
So that would have been about 11 minutes or so and change left in that second quarter. So early on the second quarter, Tylan Wallace cashes in 15 yards from Lamar. And I have a couple other comments offensively before we get to super chats. And then we're going to obviously shift to both special teams, which we've already discussed a little bit, and defense as well. So we can kind of cover this thing thoroughly. But before I do weigh in with these comments, if you guys haven't already figured it out by the live chat pinned comment right now, we are giving away, courtesy of Preston Automotive Group, a personalized signed Kyle Hamilton jersey. Not signed by anybody. Number 14 himself, Sarah, the highest paid safety in the game, has signed this himself. We are going to give away a Ravens Kyle Hamilton jersey that's been signed by Kyle himself at the end of the show. All you got to do, just follow the instructions that we have as a pinned comment right now in the live chat. It's simply following Preston Automotive Group on Instagram and leaving us a comment with the hashtag Vault in it. Two things for me, Sarah. One, I thought Derrick Henry, while he didn't show up today, what I mean by show up is show up statistically with that like signature game, numbers wise. And I have the final numbers: 11 carries for 23 yards, an average of 2.1, a long of 8. I mean, the team only had 45 on the day, like we discussed. He showed up in other areas. I thought from a pass protection standpoint, chipping, he was doing everything he could out there, which I think just speaks to, one, his selflessness, two, his willingness, and three, his capability, like his ability to block and be the 250-pound, 6'3", 6'4" beast that he is for Lamar's protection. So that, and I thought that the game, as soon as Denzel Ward, Sarah, CB1 in Cleveland went down with what I believe I saw was cramps, in comes Cameron Mitchell for them. And it became clear the Ravens wanted to target him, and they were going to try and exploit that matchup. And so too bad for Ward, since he's so freaking talented, that he wasn't able to get back in there. I don't think he re-entered back into the game, but I thought that was a key game plan, that you saw that shift in this game, offensively speaking, from a strategy standpoint. So I think that just about wraps up my thoughts on the offensive side of the ball. Did you have anything to add before we get to some super chats?
Yeah, just to put it in context, obviously when Derrick Henry has a phenomenal day, we know in part, obviously he's a future Hall of Famer. I'm not going to, steal his success from him, but running backs always give a shout out to their offensive line when they have a big day. And in Derrick Henry's case, he can also give a shout out to Lamar Jackson. They weren't really running a lot of options. They could have, or maybe they're saving it for another day. I don't know. But the offensive line was getting bullied. They were absolutely bullied. At times, let's see, Myles Garrett for sure, 8. What was his final stats here? I mean, he got to eat at one point. I mean, he did beat Ronnie Stanley. That is a tough assignment, but Ronnie Stanley has done pretty well against him in the past. But Myles Garrett finished with how many sacks here? He had 1.5 sacks. He had five combined tackles, 2 total quarterback hits, and then 2 tackles for loss. I mean, and then even when he wasn't, getting Lamar Jackson down, he certainly was making him run. Luckily, by the end, Lamar was actually doing reverse. And I think Myles Garrett had to take a couple breathers. He had to go to the sideline from chasing around Lamar. So Lamar was able to turn it around back onto him. But I think it's pretty clear that, the offensive line, especially in some places, is probably the Ravens' weakness, especially when you're going up against these more elite defensive lines. And so, so when we look at those Derrick Henry stats, whether they're good or bad, it's also a function of that offensive line. And today it got bullied.
By the way, Daniel Oyufusi from ESPN.com already catching up with Myles Garrett, as did others within the Cleveland beat reporter community post-game, and he has already called this game and this performance embarrassing. So again, Cleveland, and I'm sure, Sarah, based on comments that Myles made at the end of last week, right, essentially referring to some of his teammates' trash talk as, God, what did he say it was? Talk is cheap, essentially, is what he said in his scrum. And so, I don't know, that to me felt like English for, hey, let's not give these guys any more bulletin board material. Yes, we're confident in our ability to stop the run, and they did, but they sold out to do so, and they were exploited in other areas as a result. So that just within the last few minutes or so as postgame gets underway here, and as we now transition to Super Chats. And Sarah, there's already 41 of them piled up.
Oh, boy.
And Douglas H. Brown Sr. has kicked things off well over an hour ago, and he said, back on track after we dug ourselves a hole last week, hashtag 19-1. Great to have you here, DHB Senior. And Sarah, Eric Hill checking in today for the first of many.
Yeah, he wants to know what the Vault email is, and is it scrolling down at the bottom? I'm not sure yet, but we're what are we, Bobby? BaltimoreRavensVault at gmail.com.
Correct. BaltimoreRavensVault at gmail.com. And on top of that, Eric has gifted 10 additional channel memberships. So 10 new Vaultrons now exist because of Eric's curiosity. And here he goes. He's on a run until he's enjoying her nap in this early evening Floridian sun over on the opposite side of my living room. But I'm just going to go ahead and slide this sucker off and hope she doesn't slide off the couch when I ring her eardrums. Mama Meatloaf. It's a purple frickin' Sunday win. It's a magenta super chat for Eric. And he writes, by the way, it's a 50 spot on top of that. He says, cue the meatloaf. Great win by the Ravens. Good afternoon, everyone. If no one tells you they love you today, just know that I do. Hashtag stop the 22 per day. Hashtag suicide awareness month. Bobby and Sarah, I think I can speak for all of us when I say that we appreciate you. And Sarah, that feeling is more than mutual. Appreciate you, EH.
Absolutely, it is.
And Douglas is on a run. On top of what he's already donated, he gives a 5 spot. He gives a 5 spot. And Eric comes in and matches one of those 5 spots with an additional 5. Thank you, gentlemen. And that brings us to Captain Hart.
He says, good game, but got to be honest, if it weren't for special teams and defense giving us good field position, I don't know if our offense ever gets a rhythm. And the run game, we really need Ricard and Likely back. I would like to see those two back also. And I do think it's a good idea to give a hat tip to the defense and special teams. But Tyler Loop, fix those kickoffs. You got to fix those, buddy.
Yeah, we'll probably go to defense and then special teams maybe to as the caboose here. So we will talk more in detail about special teams. And then keep in mind, while Pat Ricard has not yet been seen ramping up, it seems, Isaiah has. And it seems like potentially week 3 could be a return timetable for him.
Isaiah returned to practice officially on Friday in a limited capacity in uniform. Yep.
There you go. It's coming up. Show Me Rose says a few dollars for all the D-Hop doubters.
Boom.
Captain Hard. You know, a lot of people were talking, and he knows they've been talking too. You already know. D-Hop uses that as a little bit of motivation. Captain Hard writes, a little worried about Mark and Bate. Still early, but eventually teams are going to double or send help at Zay. Also, please, Derek, do not have the yips. Kane Prod is celebrating 2 months, Sarah.
Kane says, I knew Rowe would be fine. LOL. Some of this fan base is way too impatient. Do you guys think Jair will get to play again anytime soon? John Harbaugh was very clear that he will be back and that Jair was really in his ear about letting him come back. And he said, you know what? I just really needed to do what I thought was best and give him some time. He said, but make no mistake, Jair will be back. I think it was probably the right call. Maybe John Harbaugh let Jair convince him that he was ready. The game tape said otherwise. And so obviously I think John likes to likes to empower his players, especially veterans. But on this one, he had to call it. Jair did not have a great game last week. It was below his own standard. John Harbaugh, to your point that you've said several times, seemed to protect Jair from himself. And, you know, we'll get more into it, but boy, oh boy, did TJ Tampa and Awuzie step up in his absence.
30%, Sarah, of the defensive snaps in week 1 for Jair. And I think we all kind of were looking at ourselves like that seems a little rich in week 1, given his injury history and given how limited he was, or just straight up not involved in summer activities because of that knee, because of the knee drain. And so you saw, Sarah, a couple of these young, talented DBs out there. Now, I know Cheeto's not exactly young, but he's experienced and he understands AFC North football. I think there's a level of trust that they have in him. And what a stellar, to your point, I think this is what you were alluding to, what a stellar pass break up there in the second half by TJ Tampa. Look out for 27, man. He's that 4th round pick from a couple years ago out of Iowa State. Last summer began. He had the double sports hernia procedure that really kind of sidelined him initially to start his rookie year. Nate Wiggins kind of stepped up and stepped in, and I mean, he was going to regardless because he was the 1st round pick that year. But look out for TJ Tampa, man. They look like they seem like they have said that they feel like they got a steal in him on a day 3 pick back in 2024. And if Jair is going to continue to kind of they're going to be careful with him. Look for 27. And just because we have the inactives up with Jair since Kane Prod got us in that direction, Sarah, this will allow us to just finish this up so we don't have to go back to it later. Keaton Mitchell, of course, was inactive, a healthy scratch for the second consecutive week. Rasheen Ali, which will be something to watch over the next week or so, was ruled out with a concussion literally from the opening kickoff, and he was RB3, if you will, which is primarily special teams, and obviously he handles kickoff return duties as well. So perhaps the door just opened, Sarah, for what I know a lot of people are clamoring for, and that is Keaton Mitchell to be involved in game day operations. No Ricard, of course, for reasons that we already know. Carson Vincent, rookie, healthy scratch. Isaiah Likely continues his ramp-up period. And David Ajabo, Sarah, for the second consecutive week, found himself on the outside looking in of the game day roster as well.
Yeah, we'll keep watching for Rasheen Ali. Maybe he'll be back before the next game, and then the Ravens will have another decision to make, or maybe they can be patient because it's like, okay, we do have Keaton Mitchell there. Let's go ahead and give him a shot while we make sure that Rasheen Ali is completely healthy.
Thanks to Kane Prod for almost knowing what we had in store for later on. And now we get back to Super Chats. Runix writes, is Tez, meaning number 81, pushing for wide receiver 3 snaps? Maybe hashtag vault. Chef Trez, Sarah, for you.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is pretty good too. So they can maybe split him a little bit. Chef Trez says, get Mark Andrews off the field till he learns how to catch. D-Hop Zay, Tez made tough catches all game. Yeah, that one with Mark, he had a punch out on that one. After looking at the review, they punched it out. But
guess who did?
You got to hold that. You got to hold on to it. Was it Grant Delpit?
You know it. Grant Delpit he certainly didn't get the last laugh. The Ravens did. You're about to learn why Roquan Smith got the last laugh in a minute here, but that's a little teaser for you. But Grant Delpit made a heck of a play on the ball there in the end zone on Mark.
Two guys talk trash. Jerry Jeudy, which we're going to hear from Roquan soon. Jerry Jeudy did not back up his stuff. On, I don't know, defense. I guess on the defensive side as a whole, they didn't back up their talk. But Grant Delpit, unfortunately, I really needed to see Derrick Henry run over him, which we did not get to see. And then he got that punch out. But like you said, in the end, the Ravens offense got the last laugh.
Delpit's a thumper. You look at his measurables, he's an old school kind of thumper safety, and that was a heck of a play on Andrews. But ultimately, to your point, to my point, one team got the last laugh today. Jerry Jeudy did finish with a team high, not game high. Zay Flowers was the game high receiver, but Jeudy for Cleveland finished with 4 receptions, 51 yards, that long of 26. He was targeted 8 times, one of which was definitely a drop, at least one drop there from Jerry Jeudy.
And he didn't get that 4th down conversion when they needed it because TJ Champa was there waving his Matumbo finger saying, not in my house.
Heck of a play by number 27. Play. Alicia says improved defensive effort. Let's keep it going. Alicia, thank you. Diesel Doctor Sarah chiming in with a $20 super chat.
We haven't seen Diesel in a minute. What's up, Diesel? He says, go team. It's sad we can be up 30 and still not feel like we have it in the bag. That's so true. I love Harbs, but when we go into prevent, it usually only prevents our win.
Eric Hill writes, D-Hop, can't wait, but have to for Lions Ravens. Nargo Media is celebrating 3 months with us, Sarah.
I was at the game, and D-Hop was insane. And Zay is so quick and better than last year. Glad you were there, Nargo. Hope you had fun.
Yeah, it looked like a beautiful weather day in Baltimore. Diesel Doctor writes, also love seeing Big Rowe recovering that fumble for 6. The big man was balling today. Who said he lost a step? We'll get to him in just a bit. Don't you worry, Big D, double D. Takian, got to be Takian, right? Takian Moore celebrating 1 month of channel membership. He says, Tez is my GOAT. And Wildlife Wale, Sarah?
Roquan on the Jeudy comments was golden. Oh, they're coming.
Oh, we'll go there. And Diesel Doctor has become our newest channel member as well. Appreciate you, DD. Eric Hill, Tez Walker with a bunch of salute emojis. Yes, sir. And Boise, Sarah checking in with that Canadian currency.
Team has high expectations for a while now. Weekly, consistent play from Rowe, Marlon, Andrews is a must. If not, partial game benching should be the play.
Guys, the beauty of it is sometimes too, especially with some of the pass catchers, whether it be Bateman and Andrews, Sarah, who in terms of like direct involvement in the game had like underwhelming performances. Look at what they do. You still put up 34 points as an offense, 41 as a team. And I just think it speaks to this deep roster. It could be anybody, any given day for them. And that's the beauty of the depth that they have when it comes to playmakers. Diesel Doctor is back yet again, making up for lost time. He says, call me old school, but I thought possession 2 feet down in the end zone was a touchdown, albeit brief possession, referring to Mark
Andrews.
Bang bang play. Was that reviewed? Help me out. Memory. Was that reviewed?
You like a challenge flag? I don't think so.
No, like a replay assist type thing. I don't think it was. There was a really strange moment where replay assist, and it seemed like one of those early season rust things for CBS. But Marlon Humphrey's roughing the passer call, on Joe Flacco, Sarah, was picked up. The flag was picked up, and the CBS broadcast crew appeared to be confused by it. It was absolutely right to pick up that flag because it was ticky-tack to say the very least, being that Joe had already sort of been down. It was a bang-bang play. But replay assist picked that thing up, and we really never got an explanation right then and there until Gene Steratore came on minutes after it happened. So I don't think that Andrews' play was reviewed, but maybe somebody in the live chat can help us out with that. We'll continue on.
I saw replays on the TV.
David says it was. Multiple people are saying that it was. So
yeah.
Thanks to everybody for the help there.
Yeah, I just don't think that was a touchdown. I'm looking at it right now, and it's close, but he knocks it out. Let me see. Let me see if he has 2 feet down. I'm about to get the slow-mo on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do remember seeing the replay several times. There was no challenge flag, but okay, here it is. It's good. I just don't feel like he finished it. I couldn't call that a touchdown personally.
Yeah. I couldn't either. So thanks, guys. Adam78 writes, sports analyst said Andrews caught the ball and took 2 steps in the own zone before it was stripped. That should have been a touchdown, right? Referring to what we were just talking about. Paul? Is it Paul Mello? For you, Sarah.
Keaton inactive. No lightning for Henry's Thunder.
Sherry entering herself in for today's Kyle Hamilton signed jersey with the hashtag Vault and says, great to see a win today. Nate Thomas doing the same. Great Ravens win. Bit worried about Andrews, hashtag Vault. And that brings us to Wildlife, Sarah.
Offense last week, defense and special teams this week. When it all comes together, will be very dangerous. A lot of work to do, though.
Appreciate you, WW. DLC West is our newest channel member. Welcome to DLCW. Captain Hard says Eric DaCosta said he saw similarities between Tez Walker and Torrey Smith. Tez Walker's first career touchdown, or first 3 career NFL catches went for touchdowns. Fun fact, which is what we discussed earlier on. Appreciate you, Captain. And Richard Sarah, a.k.a. Asmodeus Thanatos,
says, what I like about Tez, he was a number 1 in college, but fell because of bad tape against Higgins in the Senior Bowl. And he has visibility in parentheses. Made him fall under the radar. Thank you, Richard, a.k.a. Wingman of the Year. George Parker is our newest channel member with a beautiful Ravens hat up there and a big smile, grinning ear to ear in that profile photo. Joe Jenkins has gifted 5 channel memberships on this Sunday after a W. And Winstones Chronicles, Sarah, with that orange banner. Said King Henry did his thing as a great blocker today. He is a true team player. Yeah, we were mentioning it at the end of sort of our offensive segment there. I think that's well said, Winstones. Kobe Pruitt says, sorry I joined late, but I hope how you talked about Mike Green's impact getting to Flacco. I'd be interested in seeing if he got more snaps than Oweh. We'll wait till tomorrow for the snap count. I thought both had impactful performances, Sarah, and Mike Green actually got his hands on Joe Flacco at least once. The replay did a good job of showing some of his motor off the left edge there. So we'll have to see more on that coming up with the snap count. But thanks to KB for noticing. 45 looked good on that play. Joe Flacco's not exactly hard to get to these days, Sarah, in terms of his overall speed and elusiveness. But nonetheless, solid week 2 there for Mike, which brings us to Samuel Moore. He says, I love the special play by Hummel. He had the same type of block in LA a couple years ago. Ah, okay. Good stuff there, Sam. Of course, day 1 or day 2, Sarah, they bring in Jake Hummel, and you're thinking, oh, wait, who's this from the Rams? And then come roster cutdown day, being that Jay Higgins and all these other players at the inside linebacker position were like showing up and showing out, like Teddy Buchanan as well. And you're thinking, are they going to cut Jay Higgins? Or excuse me, are they going to cut Jake Hummel? Absolutely not. And he comes up big from a special teams perspective today with that blocked punt. Kane Prod says Torrey Smith's first 3 catches were also touchdowns. That's a big-time fun fact. And Sean Cole says this is the bare minimum. Not sure what you're referring to there, Sean. Let us know. Sheree has entered herself in to the Kyle Hamilton giveaway today. It's a number 14 signed jersey by number 14 himself.
go visit the live chat and check our pinned comment right now if you'd like to enter yourself in. KB, Sarah, he's back. Kobe.
He says, remember, Steve Smith said Tez would eventually take someone's job. Maybe it is sooner rather than later. He looks comfortable out there, and Lamar trusts him already. Bait better stay locked in.
Diesel Doctor, sorry, it's not football on this comment. We need to settle our differences at the ballot box. There's no place for political violence in our country. Let's win on ideas and not on violence. Hashtag Vault. Well said, DD. Wildlife Wale, Sarah's in the house.
Something has to improve with that offensive line fast. I'm not opposed to ED putting up some draft capital, Eric DaCosta, put up some draft capital for some interior help.
Hey, let me be clear. I know it's not on the offensive side of the ball, but at the start of our live stream, Sarah, Jerry Jones's post-game press conference was beginning after a thrilling win against the Giants in overtime. Russell Wilson looked phenomenal until he did, and he threw a freaking overtime interception. He and Malik Neighbors were unbelievable. But the reason why I bring it up, Jadeveon Clowney's going to Dallas. Jerry Jones just broke the news at the start of our post-game show. Rod Wave, let's see. I think this is me. Bad Browns offense masks the defensive issues. Why do they play soft coverage on third down and let the tight end run free? Also, what was Marlon doing on that missed interception? Defense analysis coming up in just a bit. John R. with a super sticker. Thanks for being here today, John. And Sarah, Eric Hill is back in the fold.
Eric says that he has 2 spare tickets for the Ravens-Lions game. Can we do a giveaway this week during the noon live stream? Hashtag blessed, hashtag road trip. I think that's a great idea.
I do too, especially since I will be in attendance. I'm looking forward to going to my first ever Ravens game outside a press box that's on American soil, Sarah. As you know, I went to Ravens Titans a couple years ago in London, and I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to do this. Pre and post game show coverage will not be affected. Eric, that's why you wanted our email. BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. We will talk about that and figure out when we can fit it in accordingly this upcoming week. And thanks, Eric. That's an awesome gesture. The Kelrick View says, good to finally see some turnovers. Keep them stacking. Greetings from the German flock. Hashtag Vault. And Sarah, they should have had multiple turnovers created. We're going to get to that defensive side of the ball in just a bit here. DLC West, and when I say multiple, I know they forced 2 turnovers, right? There's Tavius Robinson strip sack, and then also the Nate Wiggins interception, but there should have been another one, and we both know what that third one should have been. We'll get to it on the defensive side of the ball. That brings us back to DLC West.
Good team win. Still worried about parts of the offensive line.
And Andrew Browning says, don't know if you saw, Burrow has turf toe with torn ligaments. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show when we take a quick look around the AFC North. But Sarah, speaking of Browning, it's funny that Andrew has that last name because that's the same last name as Joe Burrow's backup quarterback who came in and somehow led them to a victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Cincinnati dealing with quarterback issues. We'll get into more of that coming up later on in the show. But credit to Jake Browning. He threw a bunch of interceptions, but led the Bengals to a victory in last-second fashion against the Jacksonville Jaguars. True Ravens chick, Sarah, this one's for you.
Trust the process with Mark. Hashtag Vault. Mama needs a 14 jersey.
Okay. You know it. She's entered in. Use that hashtag Vault. Follow Preston Automotive Group on Instagram, and you will be entered in to win a Kyle Hamilton signed number 14 jersey. Lauren Wunderlich's in the house. She says, happy to start the week with a W, hashtag Vault. Thanks for being here, Lauren. Wildlife Wale, Sarah, this one's for you.
It wasn't reviewed. Harbs put the flag away. 2 feet plus football move needed. The latter not happening was the explanation.
Thank you. And again, it was not reviewed. Thank you, Wildlife, for helping us out there, just jogging our memories. Joe Jenkins writes, need that jersey, hashtag Vault. Cameron Hines, my birthday is January 14th. I need that Kyle number 14, hashtag Vault. Sarah, the entries are adding up, and back to Kobe we go.
Lamar is so good right now, it doesn't even feel like he's trying, but he's created a massive gap between him and the next tier of quarterbacks. Too easy.
And think about this, KB. That's with several overthrows, several errant throws in the first half, and yet he still finishes with a quarterback rating stellar, 128.6. Davon says, Sarah, this one's for you.
Woo-wee, dummy. Or whoa, dummy, whichever one you want. Tez showed out today, hashtag Vault.
Look at Davon with that stogie smoke looking like a bad man in that profile photo. Dreams writes the defense was held a ton and no calls. Wildlife says, I forgot the hashtag vault. Andrew says, hashtag vault need that jersey. And Sarah J. Real entering himself in as well.
He does. And he says, was at the game up in his fantasy Great Purple Sunday.
Dream says KVN was pissed, just left the game, hashtag vault. He did leave the game, did not return. It's important to note, John Harbaugh, Sarah, at his press conference, maybe we already alluded to this, but all the players that were banged up today, there was not one season-ending setback. But obviously it's important to also know that KVN, on the other side of 30, they're going to want to be careful with him. But Kyle Van Noy did leave the game today. And we'll have to watch out for what that looks for because he did not enter back into the game. He was ruled out with a hamstring injury. So went to the locker room. We did not see him again. That'll be something that is worth monitoring this upcoming week. Rafike Tucker says, solid comeback win by the Ravens. Defense and special teams helped hold things down until Lamar and the offense could get going. Hashtag vault. And just because we're on the injury note, here's Marlon Humphrey. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, well, Marlon Humphrey just to do all of them together. Marlon Humphrey with the groin, Rasheen Ali with the concussion, Kyle Van Noy with the hamstring. All left the game early. None of them returned. All of them will be looked at tomorrow. Harbaugh said it's not at all a season-ending injury for any of them. That does not mean they're fine for next week. So we will have to see what the doctors' results are after they check all three guys out, and then we'll obviously have to check the injury report. So not season enders, but we'll see if they can be back this week.
All right, something to watch closely this week. Kane Prod writes, Sanusi, meaning Sanusi Kane, balled out today. I think this is after your handle here too, right? Kane Prod. Special teams all pro on the way with the hashtag vault. And Sarah, he's been doing that since the second he made this 53-man roster as a 7th-round pick a year ago out of Purdue. The first Boilermaker to ever be drafted by the Ravens. Solid start to his career. Great to see him pop in special teams. And Petra Rice is celebrating 1 month, Sarah.
Happy 30th birthday, Ravens. Love the win. I think it's Eileen's birthday today, too. So happy birthday. Great win for her.
Awesome. Couple birthday duo. Samuel Moore says, hashtag vault. Let's go, Ravens. He is now entered in. And Eric Hill, Sarah, for you.
Where are we, Vault family? Linking up Monday? Hashtag Vault.
Let me talk to Be More Around Town. We have nothing scheduled in terms of pregame coverage. I'm going to talk to Brian. I'll let you guys know this week. Captain Hard writes, need that Kyle jersey. We have a tip pass touchdown curse. We're going to get to it. We're about to talk defense in just a couple minutes. Thanks to Captain for entering himself in to our Kyle Hamilton signed jersey contest. And it's really a giveaway. Paul does the same thing with the hashtag vault, says solid win, reopen lanes for Henry next week. Diana entering herself in, and Sarah bringing us to the tail end for now, and we will revisit them at the end of the show, is Xavier Edwards Sr.
Says hashtag vault. Great to see another 40-point game. They had Henry's card today. Hate to see it. Glad to be part of this community. We're glad to be that you're a part of it also, Xavier.
No doubt. Thank you, Xavier. And thanks to all 70 of you, 71, which just came in. Phil, we will get to you. We left off with Xavier. We'll pick things back up with Phil, but just in the spirit of timing and overall content that we have planned for you, let's get back to the football stuff. We'll get back to Super Chats in just a bit. Thanks to have you guys. Great to have you guys on this Sunday evening. Over 2,500 concurrents joining us here inside the vault for our post-game live stream at the moment. If you could like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member, consider gift-giving membership. You know the drill. Thanks to Preston Automotive Group for allowing us to do this Kyle Hamilton signed jersey as well. We will give that away to someone that has to be, right, Sarah, live with us at that moment of the giveaway coming up at the end of the show. Roquan Smith may have just put forth the best game of his young Ravens career. It's not really young anymore. He's been here for a couple of years. But Sarah, Roquan showed up. He showed up and he showed out. 15 game-high tackles, 9 of which were solo for Agent Zero. The guy was flying around from start to finish. 3 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits. Joe Flacco, Sarah, every time he seemed to be under duress, it seemed like it was a result of being chased by number 0. 1 scoop and score, of course, after the Tavius Robinson strip sack, and he took it 64 yards to the crib. Agent Zero, Sarah, after the game, we all heard what Jerry Jeudy had to say this week. Grant Delpit was talking as well. Jerry, though, specifically said there were no challenges with this Ravens secondary in terms of going up against them. Grant Delpit said there was no issue whatsoever tackling Derrick Henry. They may have stopped them, obviously, they sold out to do so from a rushing attack standpoint, but this is an offense that still put forth 34 points. Here's Roquan Smith talking about Jerry Jeudy and some of the talk from the opponent in the days leading up to game day.
Today, people talk. That's why people have mouths, for the ones that can talk. And, that's what he chose to say with his mouth. And, hey, at the end of the day, it's about what you do on the field. It's not about talking. Talking don't win you anything. It's about how you come out and play. So hats off to him for having this opinion. This is America, freedom of speech.
I'd have to think, Sarah, that's not your typical breathing fire answer from Roquan, but I do believe that is good for a last laugh, and that's exactly what the Ravens got today with a 41-17 win.
Wait a minute. Can we play that again? He said, "Congratulations on your opinion. This is America, freedom of speech." Is that what he said?
Let's run that sucker back. Here's Roquan at the podium.
At the end of the day, people talk. That's why people have mouths, for the ones that can talk. And, that's what he chose to say with his mouth. And, hey, at the end of the day, it's about what you do on the field. It's not about talking. Talking don't win you anything. It's about how you come out and play. So hats off to him for having this opinion. This is America, freedom of speech.
And, Sarah, I think we both listened to that in full post-game. He really didn't have any time for any of the nonsense post-game. And you heard him right there. Quote, that's what he chose to say with his mouth. At the end of the day, it's about what you do on the field. Talking don't win you anything. It's about how you come out and play. Hats off to him for having his opinion. This is America. Freedom of speech. That from the game-high tackler. And Sarah, perhaps that from Agent Zero, who may very well have just put forth his best game as a Baltimore Raven.
Well, and what some people don't know, and I don't even know if Roquan knows this, maybe he does, he was down on the field, but Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Cleveland Browns, friend of the show, she's been on here a few times. Before the game, she pointed this out. She goes, talk about birds. Browns receiver Jerry Jeudy just pulled off a double move before the game, giving the Ravens double middle fingers in pregame intros. Pretty sure that's for their 30-year celebration of the Browns moving here. He got booed. He sure did. He got booed and he got beat along with his offense, which didn't move the ball hardly at all. Jerry Jeudy, again, he got his here and there, but in the end, wasn't even close to enough. Wasn't even close to enough to the point where you can start giving out double middle fingers and saying that the secondary gives no challenge. Well, there's no challenge, Jerry. Why didn't you have more touchdowns? He had lots of catches. How many touchdowns did Jerry Jeudy have? What are we doing here with Jerry Jeudy?
No, Jeudy only had 4 catches on the day. There were no touchdowns, 51 receiving yards, and a drop, Sarah, in a very egregious drop there from Jerry Jeudy. But this is hysterical to me.
This man is saying it's no challenges, and he ended with 4 receptions, 51 yards, and no touchdowns. Well, with no challenges, those 4 receptions should all be 4 touchdowns. What are we talking about? No challenge.
Let's be clear, okay? Joe
Flacco had 199 yards and an interception.
Mary Kay is not referring to a double move on a route tree from Jerry Jeudy. Okay. We're talking about fingers here. Middle fingers, double middle fingers from Jerry Jeudy to either the Ravens crowd in response to their booing or the Ravens sideline. And so, yeah, there was a lot of, I think you just hit the nail on the head a few days ago. You referred to a lot of this chatter as manufactured ways of getting themselves up, if you will, for this game. It came from Grant Delpit. It came from Jerry Jeudy. Myles Garrett did not handle his media sessions that way, Sarah. Joe Flacco did not handle his media sessions that way. This is what they chose to do. And then they ultimately ended up getting dealt with, as Roquan Smith would say, on Sunday. This was how it went. The Ravens get the last laugh. We'll see what happens the next time these two teams play. Cleveland gave them fits in week 8 last year. They won in the trenches. And Sarah, at times today, the Ravens got dominated in the trenches. But again, they hung around. You got contributions from your special teams unit. You got 4 quarters for the most part of consistent play from Zach Orr's defense. And when it mattered, Lamar handled business in the air with his arm, with his pass catchers at his disposal. And ultimately, the Ravens are 1-1 because of it.
Well, and just going back to Roquan here, I mean, we focused more on his talk, and I know you did mention his play, but I want to focus a little bit more on it. Yes, 15 combined tackles, 3 tackles for loss. And Bobby, a lot of these hits, I could feel them through my television screen. Like they were hard hits. And he said after the game, when he scooped up the forced fumble from Tavius Robinson, salute to Tavius for that play. He scooped it up and he's like, hey, it just felt like a like throwback to my running back high school days. So he used to be a running back. He knows how to run. And I wouldn't want to get in his way. It's kind of like Derrick Henry a little bit, where you don't want to get in his way. And yeah, he just was all over the place. And that makes me so happy to see that, Bobby. I know that we retroactively found out that he was dealing with an injury early last season. He obviously looks a lot more healthy now. And, I still do want to see the snap count, but are we seeing something with him and Teddy Buchanan where, he's not worried about doing somebody else's job? Teddy Buchanan getting the start today. I think their first 4 possessions, he stayed in that starting role. And after the game, he talked with reporters, Teddy Buchanan did, saying that it's crazy to think back that 2 years ago, he was playing for, who was it, UC Berkeley? I got that right?
So he transferred to Cal, and I'll get that school real quick for you.
Yeah, it's UC Davis. Sorry, UC Davis.
Okay.
He was playing at UC Davis before he transferred over. And now here he is in week 2 starting for the Ravens. And again, we'll see what Trenton Simpson got to do, but it's not a good sign for Trenton. Great sign for Teddy Buchanan. And Roquan Smith has been given props to Teddy from the moment he's come in, talking about he looks like a Greek god physically. Yeah. But he's also, I remember Roquan talking about that he wishes he was as far as Teddy Buchanan was when Roquan was a rookie. He's like, dang, he knows more than I did. And we all know what Roquan's career has been. And so hopefully, just being healthy and maybe having a stabilizing force next to him that he can trust with Teddy. And the fact that it was Joe Flacco, let's be honest, it's not like it was the most threatening offense in the world, but what a great kind of comeback day for Roquan Smith with what you said, one of his best games as a Raven.
I got to tell you, there was a reason why Teddy was sort of the guy that I was watching all summer long. As soon as I started seeing him in preseason play wearing the green dot communication device when Roquan was obviously sidelined because he was a starter and no real bona fide starters played all throughout those 3 preseason games, I thought to myself, man, this is a dude who, like you and I got to know firsthand when he came on the Vault, this is a dude that they trust and they think has a high IQ level of the game from an understanding standpoint. There were some signs in the preseason. Well, where is that processing taking him? He got caught in the wash at times. But, man, this is a player that he doesn't necessarily have that sideline-to-sideline speed that Trenton Simpson does, right, from a physically gifted standpoint. But he's such a smart, cerebral player that don't be surprised if this dude ends up being your starting weak side linebacker right next to Roquan, as you talked about, moving forward. Trenton still was out there. We'll wait for the snap count. I did see 32 on a couple drives make some plays, and he was around the ball. But I think this really tells you what this Ravens defensive staff thinks of him. And it also brings you back, Sarah, on a really loud week with a defensive-only players dinner that, yes, was pre-scheduled, but also, obviously, as Kyle Van Noy mentioned, Marlon Humphrey mentioned, Zach Orr mentioned, it was a loud week. There was a lot of accountability, some tough conversations, I'm sure, whether it be in or out of meeting rooms this week after that fourth quarter collapse. And this just goes to show you that last year they might have had a little bit more patience, as Zach alluded to in his press conference, than they do this year. And what went wrong for them last year and the patience that was required and ain't going to be the case this year. And I like the fact that they're already making adjustments 2 weeks into the season, alignment-wise, rotation-wise, personnel-wise. It's a good sign of things to come for a defense that's still gelling early on.
Another good sign is more turnovers. So we saw Nate Wiggins get his interception. Of course, he can thank Roquan Smith because Roquan was chasing down Joe Flacco. And I got to say, that wasn't the fastest chase I've ever seen in my life between Roquan and Joe. But nonetheless, he forced Joe to make a bad decision. And there was a Nate Wiggins ready to take advantage. He had a big pick. I think he'd returned it, 64 yards into the Cleveland 5, something like that. And that's where the Ravens needed, I think, needed several, and they needed that fourth down to get a touchdown off of it. But like, this is what we're talking about. We need more defensive turnovers. So I like to see that Roquan forced Joe into it, and that Nate Wiggins on the other end secured the ball, didn't let it bounce off, didn't let it drop. We've seen way too many of those, so we can be grateful for when they actually return it. He looked like he was kind of gassed by the end of it. There was a shoestring tackle that got him just at the 5-yard line. Would have been sweet to get a pick 6, but the Ravens were able to score in the end. Great job by Nate Wiggins. And then as he thanks Roquan Smith had to thank Tavius Robinson. And then that one Marlon Humphrey one where for the second week in a row, the opponent gets a fluky touchdown catch off of a deflection. Marlon Humphrey almost had the interception, but it got knocked out by one of the guys, and it flew right into, I think it was Cedric Tillman's hand for one of, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, that's the thing. As good as everything was today, minus that first half in the rushing game, there's still some flukiness to the Ravens that against a better team is going to bite them. This is one, right? So there's this fluky missed interception. I mean, he practically has it reeled in, Marlon Humphrey, but you see that hand, it's a Browns offensive player, knocks it out and puts it right into Cedric Tillman's hands. The other fluky thing, where do I have that? I have it somewhere here. Here we go. They imploded after that DeAndre Hopkins circus catch for 42 yards that went to the 1-yard line. Remember Zaire Mitchell-Patton, I don't know if drop is quite the right word. That might be a little bit harsh. It seemed like one hand was caught with a defender and he tried to get a one-hander. So it wasn't the easiest catch in the world, but it was there. Then Mitchell Patton came right back and had a false start. So it backs him up. Then that Mark Andrews touchdown catch got punched out. And then Lamar Jackson got sacked by Myles Garrett after Garrett beat Ronnie Stanley. And so this type of stuff where you're at the 1-yard line and you couldn't score, or you deflect a pass into the other team's hands in the end zone. It's just it's this fluky stuff that as Ravens fans, they're no lead, a 24-point lead isn't enough, because this type of stuff always seems to bite the Ravens.
Yeah, this is the stuff that's got to get cleaned up. It's hard to believe that kind of flukiness, that kind of improbability, if you will, happens back-to-back weeks on him. And for Marlon to be the one, Sarah, to drop that kind of breadbasket opportunity after he took a stand this week, it's shocking. It's shocking.
I feel like people are misquoting Marlon, by the way.
Okay.
Go back to the locker room. They asked what the message was from the coaches. And he relayed that John Harbaugh said that the defense isn't mature enough. And then they came back and said, well, what do you mean by that? Because you guys have veteran people. And so he said, well, it's he basically said the pass rush and the pass coverage working together on all cylinders all the time. So he wasn't the one to come out and say, oh, we're immature. He relayed what John Harbaugh said, and then he relayed what also Zach Orr said later. And so everybody keeps taking shots at Marlon, but he's not the one who called him that. He relayed what John Harbaugh said, who said that they were immature. Okay.
But the overall sentiment, though, was certainly taking a stand for the collapse and saying, hey, this type of stuff from last year, not going to be acceptable. I mean, clearly coming out.
He relayed that Zach Orr said that I'm not going to have repeat offenders. And at the end of that, Marlon Humphrey says, I hope I'm not a repeat offender. I hope I'm not the one who's benched. I hope to be out there. And so and did you disagree with him at the time? No, we all agreed. It was there can't be repeat offenders. Good job, Zach Orr. But I feel suddenly today, Marlon's getting shots when he was just relaying what his coaches told us, which I appreciate that he was being open about that.
I hear what you're saying. Relaying from a maturity standpoint, he's relaying that. That was not his words. He's relaying it from the meeting room or whatever the coaches addressed to him, and then kind of added in a few things hey, we're not doing this again last year. And if and then relaying what Zach Orr said, right? Which is essentially like, hey, if you're not playmaking and you're not where you're supposed to be and you're getting caught in the whatever it was, like you're not gonna be playing. And so anyway.
And I'll also say I thought Marlon had a good game. Like I felt like he hit guys short of the stick several times, like tough, hard hits. And the interception that deflected into Cedric Tillman's hands, again, it wasn't that he just dropped it. Like we've seen some guys just drop it, but it was knocked from the receivers. The receiver knocked it out of his hands. So like, anyway, I just felt like people came at Marlon today, maybe a little bit. So I'm standing up for Marlon Humphrey because I thought overall he had a good game. And I felt like it was like it got knocked out of his hands. And it was like those A weren't his words, and B, I thought he had a good game outside of the receiver knocking the ball out of his hands into Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, I thought he had a good game. I mean, I don't know why he puts himself even in that position though with Joe Flacco, who was giving himself up at the time. Like that to me felt a little mental, and then not corralling that. I get it. It's not like I get what you're saying. Like that ball has to be caught, but it wasn't like
he just dropped it.
It wasn't like the most egregious drop ever. It's got to be caught though, and he knows that. It felt similar to maybe not as bad as Kyle Hamilton's was last year with Jameis Winston in the game's waning moments. Remember, like that was actually like
he just dropped that.
That was terrible.
that was not knocked out.
Yeah. And he would tell you that.
And it was like right to him. Like Marlon at least was like running towards it and had his arms out, and it got knocked out. So.
Yeah. And look, Brandon, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit there with Marlon. If you're going to nitpick, it's make that catch. And then 2, don't even put yourself in a position to extend Cleveland's drive. Joe Flacco is not scaring you on the ground, and he's scrambling. Don't even just touch the guy. Like, don't flail your body at him. And luckily, replay assist.
I think replay assist got it right, but it didn't. Like before they did it, I was like, oh well, sure, it was kind of ticky-tack because he never actually hit into Flacco's head, like neck or shoulder or like chest area. He actually ended up not really making contact and more made it with the ground, but it was so close that it was like, why did you even need to dive? Like it wasn't even close. So I think that you could nitpick on that play for sure. But I think the better comparison with Marlon Humphrey today is not the Kyle Hamilton one. It was actually Mark Andrews. It's like finish the play, right? Mark Andrews punched out touchdown.
Yeah.
Potential catch today. Both of them had it in their hands, but somebody else came and punched it out.
Sure. Yeah. And that was Grant Delpit, as we mentioned, who made a great play on the ball. We've talked about TJ Tampa, Sarah. We've talked about, of course, Nate Wiggins' pick. And how about that way he just kind of gallivantsed through, right? Showing that 4.2 speed, or what was it? 4.28, I think, was Nate, and then 4.21, which broke the combine record a couple of years ago with Xavier Worthy. Nate, man, he just kind of glides and zips and zags, right? It was a lot of fun. And then what you said earlier on, he did look gassed because he wasn't in there the following sequence. And CBS actually caught him quickly, what looked to be kind of dry heaving. I wasn't sure if they were like, let's cut away from him because it looked like he was so gassed. And I think we've mentioned it a couple times now, but it was hot in Baltimore today. Myles Garrett looked winded at times on the sideline. Nate Wiggins looked winded. I mean, guys are still getting their regular season football legs under them, if you will. And especially when you add in that September heat in Maryland, certainly it's going to test your conditioning. It's going to test your will. But ultimately, the Ravens answer the test defensively, Sarah, on this day, 41-17. They used that Tavius Robinson strip sack with the Roquan Smith house call. They used the Nate Wiggins interception, and they used a number of other contributions defensively to put their stamp on this game in week 2.
Absolutely. Should we move into special teams, or do we want to go back to super chats?
Let's do the latter of those two. How about it?
Great.
All right. We left off with Xavier, and we're going to pick things back up with Phil. He enters himself into our Kyle Hamilton signed jersey giveaway, which is coming up at the end of this show. And Phil writes, Jerry Jeudy and Delpit should have stayed quiet, LOL. Trash talking the flock never ends well. David Cool is celebrating 4 months with us.
Said, finally, we didn't implode today. Let's keep the foot on the gas the rest of the year. Let's go Ravens, #Vault.
Deshaun Davis, #Vault, just got here. Didn't feel great about the game. Seems like we can't get both sides of the ball going on all cylinders yet. Deshaun, it's back-to-back 40 burgers for a Ravens team that's still trying to find its 4th, 5th, 6th, so on gear. So have a little bit of patience, baby. Katie Ramey, Sarah, for you.
Hashtag Vault. I win that 14 jersey. I'm giving to a person. I don't know what's happening here. I'm
Let's see,
giving
Katie.
to a person with T1D8.
Hmm.
T1D8. I'm giving it to a person with. I don't know what that means.
I don't either. Katie, if you could, and it's
Clarify.
probably because of characters. She's got only a certain
Yep.
level of character limit. So we'll think about that one. Thanks, Katie. I'm sure it's easy, but we're just in our post-game mode. We can't decipher hieroglyphics right now. It's Eileen's birthday. She says, yes, it is my birthday. I need that shirt. And the entries are starting to follow up here, starting to tally up for this Kyle Hamilton signed jersey. Guys, there's a pinned comment right now in the live chat. You've only got a few more minutes to enter yourself in for a personalized Kyle Hamilton signed jersey, courtesy of our friends at Preston Automotive Group. Happy birthday to you, Eileen. Juicebox Sarah is in the house.
It says, Ryder says, hi, Bobby. Big division win. Hashtag Vault.
What's going on, Ryder? Eric Hill is gifting 10 channel membership.
That's a meatball. Go ahead.
Oh, 10. Oh, yes, it is. I'm sorry. Wait, meatball?
What did I just say? Meatloaf.
It's a meatball. It's a meatball for the meatloaf. Eric Hill drops in a 10 spot. 10 new channel members coming in from EH. It's our first responder. It's our hero. And it's our guy, EH. Sarah's calling for things that don't even exist inside this channel. West Hall, Sarah, for you.
Oh, West Hall says at the end of the day, it's the end of the day. Close quote, Roquan Smith. He does say at the end of the day a lot. I remember, I got to go back and remember like Ray Lewis ones. Both he and Ray Lewis, the middle linebackers, had certain things that they just always said in every single one of their quotes. Like every single time, it's going to be in there.
One of the funniest things I've seen in the live chat in the last few days is that maybe it was today. Somebody wrote, Roquan does not believe in periods or commas. Meaning
as he talks
and run on sentences, Wes, you're hilarious. Wildlife Wale says that's what he chose to say with his mouth. Also quoting Roquan Smith is diabolical. Cody writes, defense held it down. Great Ravens W, and enters himself into the giveaway at the hashtag Vault. Sean says D-Hop wide receiver 1. I'm sorry. Wildlife. That's you talk about diabolical over Zay Flowers right now, Sean. That's a diabolical take right there. And all due respect to D-Hop. WW, Sarah, for you.
So my favorite is hats off for having an opinion. This is America. You know what? So he's shouting out TJ Tampa, which I love. TJ Tampa gave him a challenge on 4th down. So Jerry Jeudy got his challenge when he said that secondary had no challenge. But Joe Flacco went to the person they attacked the person they should attack, which is your 4th cornerback. Oh, TJ Tampa, we don't see him too often. How many times they go into a dime package and instead of bringing in like Sanusi Kane or another third safety, instead in dime, they had 4 corners and they brought TJ Tampa in. And so, of course, the opposing team is going to target that 4th cornerback with their number 1 wide receiver. And he still challenged Jerry Jeudy. Good shout out there, Wildlife.
Yeah, good stuff there for sure. Austin Kaufman says defense needed a game like this to build confidence. Hopefully they can keep the turnover momentum going against the better teams. Hashtag Vault. And we'll get to this in our quick hits section, Austin. But Detroit, the team that's coming to town next week, dropped a 50 burger today. We'll get to that in just a bit. Sean says, how many penalties did we get? I'll get that to you in just a second. One of the most highest penalized teams a year ago, Sarah, today had 6, which negated 28 yards. Cleveland had 6 as well. And Wildlife is back with yet another super chat. What's up, WW?
Says you learn in Little League to always bat the ball down on 4th down. As crazy as it was, that's on Marlowe. If he makes the pick, he's out of bounds inside the 5. Just bat it down.
Xavier Edwards Sr., newest channel member. What's up, X? Eric Hill says type 1 diabetes. And this was in response to...
I think it's to the one that we weren't. Katie's?
Katie.
She said
Katie
she's going to give
Ramey.
it to somebody with type 1 diabetes.
Okay, which
Thank
is
you.
awesome. Okay, so if Katie wins, she's on record for saying that she is going to gift the Kyle Hamilton jersey to someone who is a diabetic type 1. That is, wow, so
Great.
cool. So
Great
cool of you.
translation there for us.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. We needed it. Olu writes, love the phases. Good finish today. Hashtag Vault. Sean Coles, I'll take the other guy, meaning Teddy Buchanan. over Trenton Simpson at weak side linebacker, which apparently the Ravens will as well, given what they lined up with today as their starting inside linebacker, Sarah. And Kobe Pruitt, before we transition to special teams momentarily. Okay, I'll join Eric. If we beat the Chiefs, I'll sponsor a jersey giveaway.
Oh.
KV, man, enters himself in. A lot of generosity flying throughout. And Thor is celebrating 2 months. Take a look at the right bicep that's just flying into this Inside the Vault right now, all the way from, and Sarah, remind me where
Iceland.
Thor's from. Iceland. Thank you.
Yeah.
And here he is with his 2 months of channel membership.
He says, I love the song Rat out of HE double hockey sticks with meatball. Anyway, stop the Andrews and Roquan hate. If you need therapy, go to a shrink. Hating here is tiresome.
Take a look. I mean, can we just take a look at that right arm? I mean, Thor, this guy. Wow.
I have noticed, you do notice all the other guys' biceps.
Yes, I do.
And this is like a guy thing. I've decided, like when my son Aiden, when you guys are saying hi, like you guys are always like flashing your like biceps to each other. I don't know. That's just like a dude thing where it's just like,
oh yeah,
a big deal. Those biceps.
You were definitely taken aback the other day when Aiden comes in, and I just straight up rolled up my sleeve and started flexing on him. You know,
like, what's up, big guy? And you start flexing on him, and he flexes on you back, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Oh yeah. I absolutely love that. And I love this because it's shocking. Dave sending in a positive, that's right, a constructively positive super chat from David Cure. Everybody write this down in your calendars. I love you, David. He writes, Dave sending love, #Vault. Great to have you guys here, Dave. And great to have everybody here. Sarah, approaching that 3,000 concurrent number. Wilbert, we'll get to you in just a bit. And everybody else that chimes in with super chat. Sarah, we're probably a few minutes away. I said that a few minutes ago. We're approaching that Kyle Hamilton giveaway. Continue to bring in your hashtags. Continue to click that link that's included as a pinned comment in the live chat, and make sure you stay with us till the end if you have entered yourself in for this Kyle Hamilton jersey giveaway, because being that we've had trouble, Sarah, with our winners that aren't with us and then tracking them down in recent weeks with our giveaways, we are now demanding that you be with us live so that we can give this thing away and ultimately communicate with everybody, just to be fair with the audience. So that'll be coming up. But first, special teams, Sarah, a group that was up and down, but had some game-changing plays today for sure.
Well, I'm realizing we kind of already covered most of it, so maybe we can do this quickly and then move into quick hits, because there's a lot of other games that we kind of want to cover. We talked about Jake Hummel. We talked about his blocked punt and how, big that was to set up the Ravens offense, which at the time was really struggling to get anything going because they were, trying to establish Derrick Henry in the ground game. But good for Jake Hummel, just validating the Ravens' desire to bring in a new special teams ace when they were having a hard time last time. I felt like last week the coverage teams gave up way too many yards. Here he is right here, Jake Hummel, like diving there and getting that punt, just big for the Ravens offense to get a spark going on the other end. And then Tyler Loop, we kind of talked about, he finished with 2 field goals, 5 extra points, did his job there, but he's got to figure out this new rule of needing to kick into a target zone. So he has had 3 times he's put the opponents at the 40-yard line in 2 games. And again, you can get away with that against the Cleveland Browns, who do not have much of an offense to speak of, but he did it for Josh Allen also. And you can't do it for the Detroit Lions when they just put up a 50 burger, as you're about to talk about. So that's something for him to work on. I know it's a new rule, probably new to, I don't know what the college rules are, if they had a target zone to kick off into, but he's got to get that figured out. We cannot be gifting the opposing offenses a starting spot at the 40-yard line. Yeah,
correct. You're right. And there's really nothing else to add on top of that other than other opponents, other stiffer opponents, potent-wise, offensively speaking, like the Lions that are coming to town on Monday night. They're going to take advantage of that. And so good step forward for Tyler, right? Getting his first home game under his belt. But that new dynamic kickoff, Sarah, is not something that was a part of his daily life at Arizona in college. So hopefully Randy Brown and company, Chris Horton included, will get that under control, and they stop kind of giving that advantage from a flipping the field field position standpoint. And then just one more shout out too, because Jake Hummel, Sarah, just straight up. I mean, just to dig into this a little bit further, and this photo is courtesy of Ken Lamb, Baltimore Sun photographer. I mean, he is laid out, fully stretched with that right arm to get a hand on it. Great stuff. Chris Board leaves in free agency. In comes Jake Hummel. Sanusi Kane right there, Sarah, willing hands. He doesn't dive on it. He went down and scooped it up. He probably had scoop and score on his mind. But ultimately, solid effort here by Chris Horton's special teams. And as long as you get that dynamic kickoff figured out from Tyler Loop, Sarah, this was a unit that, especially with Keon Martin's plays from a week ago on some of his punt return coverage plays and timing, this is a group that's hopefully rounding out into form here early on in the season. That now brings us to AFC North play. Sorry to cut you off there. This is all Joe Burrow before we get into the ultimate end results and outcomes from this one. And Sarah, he is dealing with a foot injury, specifically a toe injury. And let me get the latest up-to-date note here on Burrow, because Joe Daneman, who covers the Bengals for the Fox affiliate in Cincinnati, noted at 3 o'clock, so about 3.5 hours ago from where at the time that we're live right now. And according to his source, Joe just finished in the MRI room at this time. He was using a one-legged scooter to get back to the locker room with his left leg propped up as to not put any weight on it. And here you have it here. He left with a toe injury. That's what the Bengals officially ruled it as. He was questionable to return, did not return, Sarah. The Ravens don't play the Bengals until November, Thanksgiving night to be exact. But this is a big deal for Cincinnati, obviously. They have a very capable backup quarterback. We'll get to Jake Browning in just a bit. But here you have it. Joe going down with a toe injury.
Yeah, that can be bad. I watched a video where he was coming off the field, and once they made it in the tunnel, he needed help on each side of him. He had his arm over two trainers. He could not put any weight on that foot. And so it does sound like a toe injury. I know a super chat earlier said there was ligaments torn and all that kind of stuff. I haven't seen it yet, but maybe that's just on my Twitter and the people that I follow. And so that's a big loss. And to be honest, I hate to see it. Like, I hate to see starting quarterbacks go down. I like to see teams be at their best when they play one another. And at the same time, of course, it's people always note how people were ready to say Lamar Jackson's career would be short and all that kind of stuff. He couldn't stay healthy and all of that. And it just goes to show you that just because you're a running quarterback, it doesn't mean that you're more injury prone. We remember that Lamar Jackson's injuries happened when he was dropping back and he was passing. We see traditional drop back quarterbacks get injured frequently, and that's happening with Joe Burrow. And so it's all about decision-making when you run. It's all about decision-making. And in the past, there had been quarterbacks that made terrible decisions while running. And so everybody assumed, well, if you're a running quarterback, you're going to get injured. That has not been the case, but knock on wood, don't want anybody getting injured. I hate to see this for the Cincinnati Bengals franchise. I want to see Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow go at it more often than not. So best wishes to him for a speedy recovery.
Well, what if I told you, Sarah, that, and I echo all of those sentiments. What if I told you that this injury that you're looking at, in still form on the screen happened at the halfway point of the second quarter, right? At the time, Jacksonville's up 14-7 halfway through the second quarter. And you're thinking to yourself, if you're a Jaguars fan, if you're just straight up football fan, oh, well, advantage Jacksonville, time to put Cincinnati to bed. But then comes Jake Browning, Sarah. He was undrafted in 2019 out of Washington. He got his career started with the Vikings from 19 to 21. And then the Bengals brought him in 21. And when Joe Burrow went down, he played really well for him. He's a very capable backup quarterback, one of the more capable league-wide. And take a look at the final. The Bengals win 31-27. They are now 2-0, despite Joe Burrow's injury, and despite them being down, again, by a touchdown at the time of Joe Burrow's injury. So, look, Browning threw 3 picks, Sarah, so it wasn't exactly the cleanest.
Oh, he did? He did throw 3 picks?
He threw 3 picks.
How many touchdowns did he throw?
2. He was out there slinging it, 21
How
of 32.
did the Jags not win that? You get 3 picks from your defense and you don't win to the backup quarterback?
Sarah, Cincinnati had 48 rushing yards on 17 attempts. They weren't running the ball. Browning comes in. He hurls it 32 times, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. He was sacked once, and he finished with a quarterback rating of 69.9. The Bengals win the game. He does enough for them to win the game. Jamar Chase, of course, goes for 14 and $165 and a touchdown. He was targeted 16 times. And so in comes one of the most capable backups in league-wide and leads the Bengals to victory. We'll see what happens with Joe Burrow. They are 2-0, and they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, Sarah, who, by the way, Trevor Lawrence was at full health. That's an indictment against the Jaguars, man, with a touchdown lead halfway through the second quarter, and you don't win the game with Joe Burrow out?
And on top of it, the Bengals defense is what? Like, the Bengals defense is not likely to finish even in the top half, maybe the top 2/3 of the league. So your defense gets you 3 picks, and you can't score on this Bengals defense more than 27 points?
Oof.
That's crazy.
Oh,
well,
boy.
and to your point, like you called Browning like one of the, what'd you call him? Like one of the most reliable backups or something like that. I don't know, you might be right, but at the same time, like, is there a better, if you're a backup quarterback, is there a better offense to come into as the backup with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Like, you can't ask for a better situation to be like, oh yeah, I'm the backup and I've got those wide receivers to help me out.
No, it's a great situation, no doubt. But that said, he's put some good stuff on tape. I mean, he's got a career record as a starter, 4-3. It shows here 4-3.
500.
That'll be 5-3 now, obviously after today. And so, hey, I mean, good for him. We'll see with Burrow. Obviously, the Ravens won't have to see him, like I mentioned, until Thanksgiving night. And then I believe they play them twice within a 3-week period, if memory serves, not having their schedule up in front of me right now. So that's the Bengals. And as for the Steelers, Sarah, not so stellar. They lose to the Seattle Seahawks and Mike McDonald 31-17. And Rodgers, not a great game for A-Rod. 18 of 33 in the passing game, a touchdown, 2 picks. He was sacked 3 times. Pass pro was an issue. Quarterback rating of 58 flat. Mason Rudolph came into this game in garbage time. Sam Darnold on the other end. There were a lot of picks, Sarah. There were 4 total interceptions thrown between Rodgers and Darnold. Not a clean game from quarterback play standpoint, but Darnold and the Seahawks still able to manufacture 31 total points. Sam was 22 of 33 for the Seahawks. 2 touchdowns, 295 yards, 2 picks. He was sacked twice. He finished with a quarterback rating of 89.8. Kenneth Walker led the day for them on the ground, 13 carries for $105. And so Seattle improves to 1-1. Pittsburgh drops to 1-1. That's what the Ravens are. Cleveland, of course, is 0-2. And, of course, Cincinnati. There's a 3-way tie atop the AFC North through 2 weeks at 1-1.
Yeah, and the Bengals aren't going to maintain that without Joe Flacco or Joe Burrow.
I just misspoke. Cincinnati is in the clear lead, 2-0. There's a 2-way tie for second, 1-1, Pittsburgh and the Ravens. Excuse me.
Yeah, but the Bengals again aren't going to be able to maintain that without Joe Burrow. I don't think they're going to be able to maintain that. We'll see how long Joe Burrow will be out. But this is interesting on the Steelers side. So there was some victory laps going on for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers last week, which was probably premature because it was against the Jets. And yet you also can't do victory laps for those that, are like, no, Aaron Rodgers is like, washed or whatever, because it's a week-to-week league. So we'll see what they are overall. But the one consistent, Bobby, is the Steelers defense has now given up 30 or more points in 2 weeks in a row. So that makes me wonder, is it the Steelers defense that is starting to kind of lose it? I know they got a lot of aging guys on there, but they gave up 32 points last week to the Jets, and now they give up 31 to the Steelers. What did the Jets put together this week? Let me see.
They got trounced.
How many points did they put up?
All out trounced. Not many. 30-10 was the final.
Just
Buffalo
10.
smacked them.
So what's going on with this Steelers defense? Do we see a crack in it? Are they going to be able to like figure it out? Or maybe I'm sure they'll be better. It's a veteran team, but that doesn't feel like such a strength in back-to-back weeks when you give up 30 or more points against teams that are not offensive juggernauts.
Yeah, for sure. Very un-Steelers-like. And so that's sort of your look at the AFC North through 2 weeks and a look at what's coming to town in a week, about 8 days, an offensive juggernaut. Now, they are 1-1, and they did not look like this in week 1, did the Detroit Lions, Sarah. But they put an all-out thumping on the Chicago Bears today. 52-21. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, and the rest of their playmakers thumped the Chicago Bears.
What do you call a Jackson 5 for another quarterback? We're so close. He had 5 touchdown passes, Jared Goff did. 334 yards, no interceptions, 156.0 passer rating. And then, the running game was great. Gibbs had 94 yards and a touchdown. Montgomery had 57 yards and a touchdown, both on the ground. I mean, what was going on over there? Where was this? Was this in? It looks like it's in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
What was Chicago doing? Not playing defense, clearly. 52 points? Whew. Oh, This is going to be a game, Bobby. This is going to be a game.
Well, you know what's funny, though?
Lions and Ravens on Monday night.
What's funny, though, Sarah, is I can remember saying that the last couple times they've matched up. And the Ravens made it anything but, meaning they smacked them in the mouth. This is a team that historically, particularly in recent years throughout the Lamar era, when you take the Justin Tucker all-time field goal game-winning game as time expired out of the equation, has had Detroit's number. And I wonder if that continues. They have had this team's number, but this is also an offensive attack that is just as potent, maybe not just as potent as the Ravens, but within that conversation that sits at the table in terms of what they can do. Yes, Chicago is a lesser opponent. There's a talent gap there, no question. But 52 points is 52 points. And this could go one of two ways coming up on Monday night. The Ravens have smacked them before on prime time. Perhaps they will again. But this team's coming in hot. And they're going to be playing confident, Sarah, coming up on Monday night.
Yeah, so in 2023, when these two teams played, the Ravens won 38-6. And then in 2021, so this is the Lamar era, only 2 games. In 2021, it wasn't a lot. It was 19-17, but the Ravens won.
Yeah.
38-6, you're right, was an absolute smackdown. And so it's kind of like one of those things. I just don't know that NFC teams have figured out Lamar Jackson, right? Has he beaten all the NFC teams yet? I think he's beaten almost all teams except for 2, and he has the 2 on the schedule this year. But I still think he's only lost 1 game to NFC. I guess 2 games now because the Eagles beat him. So we'll see. See if the Detroit Lions can put together some sort of defense, and then the Ravens seem to have done well last time and figured them out. Yeah. Let's see. It's a constant chess match. Everybody's going to keep moving, so we'll see what happens.
One more quick hit. Super chats to read, and then we give away the Kyle Hamilton signed jersey that's literally been signed by number 14 himself. That's what we have coming up. If you haven't already done so, get your entries in by following the instructions in that pinned comment in the live chat. We thank you guys for being here, coming up on that 3,000 concurrent number. And let's get to what we learned pregame on Sunday NFL Countdown, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter's reporting. Here it is.
This had been reached. The Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens were planning to select Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round with the 141st overall selection. But when he found out, he got word back to the Ravens that he preferred not to go to a place where he would be competing and backing up Lamar Jackson. He wanted to be in a place that he could play. And so when the Ravens got that message, they pivoted, went a different direction with the 141st overall selection. And 3 picks later, the Cleveland Browns selected Shedeur Sanders, who will be in Baltimore today, where he could have been spending his NFL career if he were willing to back up Lamar Jackson. Preferred not to do that. And so Shedeur Sanders will make that trip to Baltimore today. Could have been a Raven, but he's a Brown, 3rd string on the depth chart, Randy.
Shep.
Well, how about some pregame content?
Yeah.
Certainly came from out of nowhere. Adam Schefter on Sunday NFL Countdown, Sarah, as you just heard there, sharing that Shedeur turned down a team. I hadn't heard of that before. Ryan Fitzpatrick, of course, former NFL quarterback, said as much as well. I had a bookmark on that where he was basically like, I've never heard of that. Shedeur was asked post-game if the report was true, and this comes from Daniel Oyefusi. He goes, quote, "You wouldn't even believe my memory don't even go back that far." So yeah, I don't even remember anything post-draft. I remember I'm here. I go to practice every day, and it's a 24-hour rule. It serves no purpose in my life. He went on to say, my response is I'm focused on the now. I don't really talk about anything in the past. And whatever happened in the past, it is what it is. I'm more focused on now. I'm more focused on how this game that we just gone and had and figuring out how to move forward from now. Sarah, this is the emergency third quarterback in Cleveland who's garnering attention before a week 2 game, so much so reporters addressed it with him post-game. Your thoughts on something that you floated out there, the idea of the Ravens potentially having an interest in Shedeur Sanders. I shot that down. Certainly, and I probably still would, but you were on to something here. You had a feel for it. I commend you for sharing that way back when during draft coverage, and the fact that it comes up now, months later, is shocking, but here we are.
Shocking to you because you shut it down, not shocking to me because me and EDC were on the same page clearly.
Oh my
Why
goodness.
wouldn't you give him a shot in the 5th round? Are you kidding me? How many people are like quarterbacks are like developmental quarterbacks in the 5th round, but you had Shedeur Sanders there. You've got a great relationship with Deion Sanders. Ozzie and Deion love each other. Deion practically declared his love for Ozzie when Lamar Jackson was drafted. It all made too much sense. So yeah. I'm not shocked that the Ravens thought about it, since my mind was all there. I was ready for the Shedeur Sanders Baltimore Ravens marriage. Now on to Shedeur Sanders. Listen, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and just like take him at their word. The way Shedeur worded all of that, I'm sorry. Like you don't remember if the Ravens were about to draft you and you said, please don't draft me. I feel like he would remember something like that and is just not in a position to where he wants to admit that. So can't say I totally buy into what he was saying to the Browns reporter at ESPN. Number 3, was it a good decision? Assuming that Adam Schefter is correct and I'm correct in not believing Shedeur Sanders, not remembering, the question is, was it a good decision? Of course, conventional wisdom would say, hey, Lamar Jackson's going to be a starter and he's going to be a starter for many years. Will I really have an opportunity there? Then again, it's conventional wisdom to say nobody wants to be a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns and have them develop me. Maybe he didn't know that it was going to be the Browns that select him, but I can't imagine that any quarterback is like, yes, the Browns drafted me. Look at the history that they have at quarterback here. And then on top of it, he's still the 3rd string quarterback. And today, when they benched Joe Flacco, they put in Dylan Gabriel, not Shedeur Sanders. So in my view, if you were to take the long view, you could think of Steve Young with Joe Montana. You could think of Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre. You could think of Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers. And maybe he could have gotten in here or there because the Ravens blow people out. And then other teams were like, oh, the Ravens liked him? Oh, well, let me go take another look at him. Oh, look at him when he comes in, when Lamar doesn't need to play in the 4th quarter. Look at how well he played. And then if he wasn't ever going to get a real shot in Baltimore for years to come, then the Ravens could have traded him. I just don't see how being the 3rd string backup for the Browns is a better situation than the number 2 backup for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore.
Shedeur, man, you had to look at yourself in the mirror, I think, after 2.5 days and say to yourself, wow, this is not what I had planned at all. I can't believe that I'm still sitting here as the 5th round nears and my name hasn't been called. And I think somebody needed to get in his ear and say, look, to your point, we got to start thinking about this with multiple years involved, right? From the long game perspective, where can I go to develop and maybe end up in a Sam Darnold situation, right? Who had to wait a long time, of course, after the Jets really failed him in a lot of ways. And as Cleveland, Sarah, have failed double-digit quarterbacks over the years. It is quarterback purgatory. And if he was able to kind of check himself, check his ego at the door and say, hey, you know what? The Ravens want me. They want me. I may not want them or this opportunity. Right. I may not want them in this opportunity in this moment because I thought I was going to hear my name if everything went well on day one. But you know what? Maybe I can go in there, develop under T. Martin, develop under Todd Monken and company, develop under a should-be 3-time MVP, somebody that I have a relationship with, an organization that my father knows better than anybody, and just kind of like swallow my pride a little bit, go in and just start my NFL career. And hopefully it doesn't come back to bite him when it's all said and done, like so many other quarterbacks that have gone to Cleveland can't say. Sarah, I did think that Alex Smith, while passionate and very critical, I did think that he made a couple good points. Listen to this from former NFL quarterback Alex Smith on that same segment.
This is insane, right? Like, if this is true, I think this is crazy, right? At this point, you're in the 5th round. I understand you had higher hopes, but you've dropped to the 5th round, and you're thinking about being a starting quarterback the next year. I think this is incredibly short-sighted. Like, if you're in this situation, you want to go to an organization that is going to develop you, right? Here you have the Baltimore Ravens, the model of stability in the NFL. This regime's been together for how many decades now? And actually has a track record to develop quarterbacks. Joe Flacco, Lamar, right? Instead, you choose the Cleveland Browns because you think you have a chance to start the next year. And mind you, the Cleveland Browns, who are on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to stability, right? This is the same organization that walked away from Baker Mayfield as the #1 pick in the draft. What's he gone on to do? Oh, he's only led the NFL in touchdown passes since joining the Bucs, right? How many starting quarterbacks? There's been 700 starting quarterbacks in the last 20 years for the Cleveland Browns. Like, this makes zero sense. You want to go to a good organization where you can develop and reach your potential.
Who would have thunk it? At the end of our post-game live stream, week 2, we're talking about Shedeur Sanders. Alex Smith with some passionate remarks there, Sarah. He had his fair share of adversity as a quarterback in the National Football League, and of course had a one of the most gruesome leg injuries you will ever see as a Redskin at the time. But those are his thoughts. I think he makes a lot of good points. The best, obviously, you wish the best for Shedeur. I'm sure you'll see him at some point, unless Dylan, Sarah, at some point takes this thing by storm. You better believe that at some point here, given what Joe put out on tape, they're going to have a chance, these two players. But since Dylan is clearly QB2, he's going to get that first shot. Will he leave the door open for Shedeur, or will he close it shut? That remains to be seen.
Well, as I react to Alex real quick, the sun has come down on you. So if you have a light in front of you, maybe you can switch it on. I don't know if it's close by.
I know.
You become shadowy Bobby after dark.
I'll be right back. Goodness gracious.
But as I react to Alex a little bit, it's kind of like sometimes like unanswered prayers of what we want is like ends up being the best situation for us. And maybe that is what could have happened for Shedeur Sanders, because listen, like I said, as from a Ravens point of view, I wanted to see Shedeur Sanders as the backup in Baltimore, like the #2 backup. The Browns from day one have never really seemed like they believe in Shedeur, right? And right now they're giving Dylan Gabriel the nod over Shedeur, perhaps just because he's a 3rd rounder and Shedeur is a 5th rounder. And then on top of it, Bobby, would you at all be shocked? They are now 0-2. They may be having to bench Joe Flacco in a little bit, and maybe Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders will both get chances. Zach Jackson said that he believes that both of them at some point will be out there getting chances. But would it shock any of us if they end up being in like number 1 through 5 in the top 5 of the draft, and then they go out and draft another quarterback in the top 5? And so again, looking at the long game, Shedeur Sanders, I don't know that his long game is better there either. And so, yeah, like sometimes like the unanswered prayers are the best answers, where it's like you don't get what you want. And then oh my gosh, it ends up being better for me in the end. And I feel like him being in Baltimore would have been that, because I just don't see how like look at Baker Mayfield. He didn't start getting I mean, he was one of the best drafted quarterbacks that they've had, and yet he didn't really take off until he left. He didn't really become.
They gave up on him.
They gave up on him. And the Browns, I don't know that they ever have believed in Shador. Remember, we all saw the reaction after they drafted him. The cameras were on them. Like, are they ever really going to believe in him? I'm not so sure. I guarantee Ozzie Newsome and Eric DaCosta and John Harbaugh and their communication with his dad and him, I'd know that they would have believed and put everything into him and then they were even more capable to doing. Even if the Browns did believe in him, still, who's going to be the better franchise? For sure, the Ravens. And again, maybe he didn't know the Browns were going to be getting him. But, man, to turn down the Ravens is really something.
CBS wondering what I think we're all wondering. How much of a lease will Joe Flacco have at 40 years old, knowing that you have to get regular season evaluations in for the two quarterbacks that exist in your room that are rookies who do not have tape aside from Dylan's drive today. I think he had one or two drives, one of which resulted in a touchdown. So at some points they're going to have to turn in that direction. We got to go to Super Chats. We got to go to this Kyle Hamilton jersey giveaway.
Oh, yeah,
I continue to be perplexed. Just for the record, I continue to be perplexed that you still would prefer a situation in 2025 with Shador as QB2 over Cooper Rush. I can't see eye to eye with you on that one. And let me just be clear. Is that what you prefer? Am I getting that? Am I interpreting that correctly?
I'm still trying to remember the order. So Cooper Rush, when did they sign Cooper Rush?
In March, mid-March.
In March.
And then of course the draft was 2 months later.
Yeah.
And so I'm just of the belief, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
I'm just of the belief that somebody who has regular season tape out there that doesn't come with a media you-know-what storm, that could be a distraction, that certainly was for Cleveland throughout the summer months. Not that it would be as big of a distraction in Baltimore because the framework of the organization, on top of Lamar being Lamar rather than a 40-year-old Joe Flacco on the back nine of his career, there's nothing to argue about in terms of who should be QB1 in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I just think that the safer play was Cooper. And so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, QB2 being Cooper Rush is a no-brainer over somebody like the unproven and maybe even a distraction-led Shador Sanders coming in the 5th round.
It's not a distraction.
I think he was absolutely a distraction.
In Cleveland, yes.
It was a national storyline. Massive distraction for that organization. Would it have been minimized with the Ravens framework and the way that they're stabilized and the way they're structured? Sure. But it would have been unnecessary, I think, to bring in that kind of headache. I really do believe that.
I don't like you calling him a headache. I don't like that. I disagree with that. I don't think that you shy away from people because he's an NFL great legendary son, and because the draft knock on him is that he didn't interview well. Like, I just don't see that being a big deal in Baltimore. For sure, to Shador's point, because Lamar Jackson is the clear leader, like that wouldn't have been a distraction, whether it's QB2 or QB3. So your question to me, I just feel like you lean more into that than I do. I lean more into like the football and what the Ravens can do. There's definitely guys that bubble above, like Deontay Johnson, that like bubble above and become a distraction. I don't think it would have been a distraction in Baltimore, not with Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. But to your question of Cooper Rush versus Sanders, I would think that Cooper Rush, because he was already signed and he has the experience that he has, you give him the leg up, of course. That being said, would it have been more fun to watch Shador go out there instead of Leary? You know what I mean? Like neither Cooper nor Leary played well in the preseason. And so would it have been fun to see what Shador could have done? And then maybe he could have, gained a little favor, maybe. So, but to your point, I would probably still go with Cooper Rush because of his experience. That being said, like, again, Shador Sanders long-term, I really, really like that idea with him developing with the Ravens and perhaps moving up to number 2 and seeing that the Ravens draft him and develop him. I think he may have become a trade piece for the Ravens.
Yeah, well, one thing we could definitely agree is that would have been an upgrade over what Devin Leary gave him over the summer.
Sure.
And then what we learned, obviously, just to kind of summarize the topic, is that he was unwilling to take the Ravens' opportunity. at 141st overall. He had gotten wind of that, or maybe someone in his camp had gotten wind of that. The Ravens had planned on that at 141. I think they went with Carson Vincent, if memory serves. Instead, once they figured out that Shedeur wasn't interested in coming to Baltimore, which, as Ryan Fitzpatrick and others have noted, that seems like a new concept when the rookie turns down the organization. But anyway, let's get to some super chats, and let's ultimately get to this Kyle Hamilton signed jersey giveaway, which is what we have coming up momentarily.
And you have to be here. You have to be here now to claim it. We're not waiting to hear from you later. You have to be here now to claim it. We want to see the email. We don't want to have to do a redraw in a couple days.
Yep. And all the instructions in order to do so in the pinned comment right now in the live chat. Use the hashtag Vault and press the link that I have included in there so that you can enter yourself in, and we can ultimately give out this Kyle Hamilton jersey that's been signed. Wilbert says, Sarah and Bobby, love what you guys do. I can't wait for the Ravens to work Tez in the lineup with likely returning. Wow. Thank you for being here, Wilbert. Eric Hill is back, partner.
He says, I'm glad I just got my gym membership for the year. I'm looking like a third world refugee lately, and I eat a lot. Still, though, Olu is in the house.
Heck yeah. Eric, as soon as you update your profile picture once you get back in the gym, I too will be complimenting your biceps. Just let us know. Wildlife Wale says that rookie at PR looks good. He's going to pop one. We failed to mention that too. LaJonte Wester did have another nice return today, Sarah, as the punt return specialist. And one of Shedeur's former teammates, right, at Colorado that the Ravens brought in day 3 back in April. Sean says, how did our Cleveland play? Oh, our Cleveland, meaning Ben. Did he have a couple snaps today?
I don't remember seeing him. If he was out there, it wasn't much, I don't think.
Yeah. Park Heights Profit with a $41 super chat. That's the orange banner attached, and this one's for you.
For 41 points. Dragged on them boys, he says. Lot G in just a week is incoming. What say you, Vault? I thought a Brown said something. Burrow hurt. Seems familiar. Santa Clara is so soon. Feathers in them boys' throats. Lions equals B2A. We know what that means. No challenge.
And on top of that, a 10-channel membership gift, which prompts and, of course, brings to the table. PHP, thank you for your 10-channel membership contribution. 10 new members have become official Vaultrons thanks to your generosity. Thank you, brother. Stephen Dent, Sarah, is in the house.
Said much love for Wallace, blocking, fumble recovery, and a TD catch. Hashtag Vault. That's right.
Yeah, he continues to answer the bell, Sarah, when called upon. Eric Hill, hear ye, now entering PHP. Maybe that one came in prior to his super chat a minute ago. And KB says Bengals should have saved some money for a cart instead of allowing Joe Burrow to limp off with the help of a couple of his teammates or staff members. Sarah Lost So Serious is here.
Says Rowe looked like Chicago Rowe today. Hashtag Vault. And like the first 2 years Rowe that he was in Baltimore. Remember he turned around the defense the first year he was traded here. The defense was sinking, and then all of a sudden Rowe was traded here and everything got better.
He had a stellar 2023, to your point. Yeah. Darren Alexander is here. Appreciate you, DA. Wildlife says, thank goodness he turned us down. Can you imagine all the Fire Harbs crew calling for Coach Prime? WW, referring to the Shedeur Sanders conversation that we were having a moment ago. And KB is in the house.
Sarah, the best moments of my life have come after I stopped praying for something specific and started praying for what's best for me. Amen, Kobe.
Exactly, the man. Olu, Bobby, you have to stop it. Thank you, Sarah, to say a headache is haterish. Okay, I mean, I disagree with this. Let it go, sir. Sanders would have been awesome here under LJ8. I'm just saying what I've watched from the Cleveland saga over the summer. It was a disaster, and there was so much unnecessary coverage that ended up and it's a distraction. I do view
because
it.
They don't have a settled quarterback. It was like give Shedeur a chance because Joe Flacco's 40 years old and Dylan Gabriel isn't showing much either. I mean, it's two completely different situations.
Yeah, correct. But Wildlife is onto something. No doubt the Dion talk would have started as it relates to Harbaugh. Sarah,
there already is the fire Harbaugh. There's the calls came week 1 to fire Harbaugh. That doesn't so they have a different coach to come in, but all the fire Harbaugh stuff is already here.
I'm not going to be convinced otherwise. God, this is we're going to agree to disagree on this.
I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just agreeing with the super chatter.
Well, I'd like to have a conversation with out there without it being attached to haterish Olu. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine, and I'm sticking to it. Kyle Joyce, this one's for you.
Good win today, Flock Gang, but Marlon needs to quit. It speakers his mind to the media. Needs to quit. Oh, speaking his mind to the media. That 4th down interception attempt was not a quote unquote mature play. So he's with you on that, Kyle. I mean, Kyle's with you, Bobby.
Well, I thought you did a good job though earlier on of clarifying that, he relayed the maturity comment from John Harbaugh. And so, I can probably go and tweak the tweet of mine that essentially said, not a great look, given comments made this week by dropping that interception. And that, why even putting yourself in a position to, get called for on a personal foul, even though it was picked up, right? The roughing the passer call. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's all that needs to be said there. I think you did a good job of clarifying that he was really just regurgitating what John Harbaugh had told his team earlier in the week. Wes Hall says Ravens W, Steelers L, and Chiefs putting up a stinker. Great Sunday. Big O, and we haven't even.
What's the final score with the Chiefs?
I was going to say you and I are in the middle of a live stream. We haven't even had a chance to take a look at that. By the way, the Colts just walked off the Broncos in game-winning field goal fashion. So Denver goes down to Indianapolis. How about Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts at home upsetting the Denver Broncos? Good for them, man. And then what do you got for us on the Chiefs, Sarah?
Well, Chiefs just scored. It was 20-10 like 3 seconds ago. Now it's 20-16. I'm sure they'll get the extra point. They need this in order not to go 0-2, but they are playing the Eagles. So this is we need to end this stream so we can go watch this. So now they're down by 3 to the defending Super Bowl champs who beat them in the Super Bowl just a few months ago. So, and they're fortunate that the Colts took down, you said the Colts took down Denver?
In last second fashion moments ago on a game-winning field goal.
And where are the Chargers at? Because I don't know. Wow. Chargers are Monday night.
This Philly Kansas City game, boy, it's getting going. So yeah, let's get this jersey giveaway done so we can go watch the final moments here. Big O says Clowney to Dallas, and we still need pass rush help with KVN going out. KVN going out, #Vault. That's from Big O. And like we mentioned earlier on, Sarah, the Cowboys did indeed sign Jadeveon Clowney, who they had in for a visit. He didn't initially sign with them for whatever reason, as Josina Anderson was noting. But one of those last remaining, Sarah, like veteran, proven outside linebackers off the board going to the Cowboys. Olu still is not giving up on this. He says, it's low-hanging fruit, sir. We are better than this. Oh, God. When that's said, though, that's frustrating to me because now it's like Bobby has something personal, like a personal vendetta against. That's what I feel like Olu's trying to say, that I have a personal vendetta against Shedeur. And if it's coming across that way, I guess these guys are entitled to their opinions based on how it sounds. That's not. It's far from it. So, Thanks for the.
Yeah, I don't know if it's personal. I think it's just like I don't know that it's personal for you. I mean, you just said it's not, and I take your word for it. I think it's more that I think you lean more into media headlines and the impact it has on whether you want to sign somebody or draft somebody. I think that you lean more into it than maybe I would or maybe some others would.
Okay, but I appreciate that. There was some substance to these headlines though. Having followed it closely.
I mean, it was interviews that he didn't interview well.
Well, and then overall evaluation. The league told you, how they evaluated him by how those 3 days of draft coverage panned out for him. So anyway,
that's fair, but that's not what you were talking about before about the Ravens not drafting him.
Correct. I was talking.
That's not what you were speaking to.
Well,
but the Ravens felt like he was a fit. They evaluated him as a 5th-round draft pick, and it sounds like the Browns did too, because the Ravens were going to draft him. They saw him as like a guy they could develop, and I would have wanted that in the 5th round. And it sounds like you are saying. Do you agree that like does your evaluation that he's a 5th-round draft pick? And if so, you're still saying that the headlines made you want to like push him out even further because of the headlines.
Well, I guess I'll just say to wrap it up, it's like two things for me. I mentioned the distraction, right? The distraction piece over the summer from a media coverage standpoint, everything that comes with Deion, the stuff that's come with Shedeur and how much of a national storyline it was, which the Ravens would have been poised to handle better than Cleveland for reasons that we've already discussed, given that their quarterback position is more than stabilized. The second piece of the puzzle is that I think Cooper Rush is the more safer play for QB2. I also said that Devin Leary is a downgrade to Shedeur. So if they wanted to bring him in as QB3, groom him, which he didn't want, I could see why that would have been a savvy decision to make in front of Devin Leary. They wanted to give Devin the summer, I would think, because it was T. Martin's handpicked player, right, out of I think it was Kentucky.
Which they could have done anyway. They could have had 4 quarterbacks during the summer. Yeah.
Sure, they could have. Would have been harder to get all of them reps, or meaning like Leary and Cooper reps. But yeah. So for me, it was the safer play of what they had in March, being that they brought in Cooper, the distraction side of it, and then everything else is secondary to me. Thank you, Olu, for the super chat. Phil Jordan, Sarah, for you.
He says Harbs is definitely on the gun line.
What does that mean?
Just that he's like, I think his seat is hot. I think that's another way to say it.
I've never heard that before. Okay. Holly Keefe says, well, he just won though. Like he just won on a day where the offense was far from stellar and they still put up 34 points.
Yeah.
Holly Keefe says the Seahawks beat the Steelers, plus the Ravens beat the Browns. And that is, to Holly's point, a successful game day. And thanks to Holly, Sarah, she showed up to the M&T Bank Stadium pre-watch party last week when they were in Buffalo with our Vault gear on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Holly.
DJ Burke entering himself in, which is a good reminder. This is probably the last call before this Kyle Hamilton sign. Can you believe we're coming up on 2 hours and 15 minutes of content? We really got to get this giveaway out. DJ Burke has entered himself into our Kyle Hamilton jersey contest and Captain Hard, Sarah.
Nick Wright was worried about Ravens game 1 hangover. Should have been focused on the Chiefs. Hashtag 0-2.
Oh, has it gone final?
No, it's let's see. It's 2 minutes or left. Oh my gosh. Can I just pull it up? I'm just pulling it up so I can watch it while we do these super chats. I can't believe I'm missing this whole thing.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Appreciate you, Captain. And that brings us to Kyle Joyce. He says, you can't please everyone, Bobby, and it's not your job to please everyone. You and Sarah keep doing your thing. And I know Kyle was not at the game, but he was fired up to watch the game. He gave us a call in the pregame show in our guest lines. Lost So Serious says, I'll never celebrate injuries, but I hope Mike Green takes advantage of the KVN injury. We still don't know, though, to be fair. We still don't know. Kyle was ruled out with a hamstring, Sarah. We'll have to watch that as practice and whatnot progresses this week.
I do imagine his snap count went up, and he almost had a sack on Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco threw it away last second with the veteran savvy move to throw it away. He almost had that. It seemed like there were a couple pressures out there. It's funny because a lot of times it's hard to see on the game footage what's going on in the trenches, but several times Mike Green stood out to me.
Yes, he did. All right, 45. We're watching you. Eric Hill says, just in case no super chats tomorrow from me, YouTube is hindering my greatness again. Hashtag I love you all. Hashtag I will find a way. Hashtag still no picks. Hashtag 19-1. And
what
hashtag
is the rule?
6K for LJ. We still don't know the rule. I'm sure a simple Google search would allow us to figure that out. But Eric, thank you so much. And partner, I think we are finally ready, courtesy of Preston Automotive Group. Guys, you probably have 30 seconds to get your last second entries in for a Kyle Hamilton, Sarah, number 14 signed jersey. It is personally signed by Kyle Hamilton. It's in thanks to Preston Automotive Group. They are a local car dealership in the Baltimore area. And partner, you ready to cue this thing up?
I am definitely ready. And I just realized that I need to share my screen. So I'm sure you were queuing me up with that entry.
Yep. Off we go.
There we go. We have 107 entries. Here we go. 108 right before I click draw.
Yep.
Let's see who the winner is of a very, I think, awesome giveaway. What?
Oh!
Yes.
You know what?
He's given
Sarah?
so many super chats today. He and a few others are for sure deserving. There we go, Wildlife.
Oh, man. Wildlife Wale, Sarah, you're not kidding. He has been so committed to us. And all that stands between him and this signed Kyle Hamilton jersey is announcing his presence. Where are you at, WW? Come on.
We just need to see that you're still here.
Come on now. Where are you at? He's been so positive, so involved. Come on. Where are you at?
There's always these like immediate different reactions.
Hey, there he is. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. By the way, I think the Eagles have got this. They just converted a first down. The Eagles did. They're going to be able to run the clock out. Woo, the Eagles.
Congrats, man.
Sorry, Wildlife. I'm going back and forth here. We got Wildlife has double good news, okay? He's got the good news that he just won the Kyle Hamilton signed jersey from Preston Automotive. And wait, what's going on here with the Eagles? I'm pretty sure because now the refs better not come in here and give this to the Chiefs.
Hey,
it looks as if the Eagles just converted a first down and they're about to be able to drain the clock with 1:27 left.
You watch that. I'm going to give him the instructions.
Okay, you give him the instructions
on what we need from him in order to get this done, and then we'll sign off so we can go watch the last few moments of Chiefs Eagles here. Hey, Wildlife, congrats, my brother. Thank you so much for all your support. Huge thank you to Preston Automotive Group, guys. They make this possible for us. This is one of our best giveaways yet, Sarah. And so WW, all you got to do, as you see on the streaming bottom line right now, BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. Email us, BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com with your shipping address and a screenshot that you have indeed followed Preston Automotive Group on Instagram. How do you find them on Instagram? We have that direct link pinned in the live chat right now. So go hit them up. Go follow that account. Email us with your shipping address, and we're going to get you that jersey, big dog. All right? Congratulations. And Eric Hill says, I will email you tonight about the tickets. So, Sarah, one giveaway finishes up. Another one comes in from Eric Hill. We appreciate you, EH. And it is winning formation for the Philadelphia Eagles, who take care of business over the Kansas City Chiefs. And Sarah, statistically speaking, as the Ravens know all too well last year, even though they avenged it, 0-2, statistically, historically speaking, very difficult to make the playoffs. The Chiefs are the Chiefs until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
But the Eagles take care of business, 20-17, Sarah. And there was no revenge on this day for Kansas City after being embarrassed in the Super Bowl. Philly goes on to be 2-0.
They go on to be 2-0. Chiefs start 0-2. Certainly not, digging their grave at this point because, like you said, it is the Chiefs. The Ravens started out 0-2 last year, and the Ravens came back and made it into the playoffs comfortably, went on quite a tear. But, man, the Eagles might be in the Chiefs' head now because now they've got those back-to-back wins, and it took a last-ditch effort to even make it, a one-score game for the Chiefs. So we will see what happens. But, yeah, they're lucky that the Broncos lost today.
Guys, awesome show. Thank you so much for your support, partner. Great stuff. Week 2 is in the books. You and I, of course, will be live at 12 noon tomorrow. Want to let everybody know as well that we will have a best of condensed version of this 2+ hour show. It'll be on Roquan Smith, and that'll be dropping in our best of playlist as we do every single day, thanks to our wonderful editing team, Brendan Molson and his staff. Partner, anything else from you before we jump?
Got nothing for you.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us. If you could on the way out, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. If you haven't already done so, you can consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. A special thank you once more to Preston Automotive Group and Wildlife Wale. Congratulations to you. We hope you'll email us as soon as possible so we can get that shipping information off to Preston. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Week 2 post-game live stream. Ravens take care of business in convincing fashion. 41-17? Am I remembering that correctly? 41-17. Ravens improved to 1-1. They beat the Cleveland Browns, and next up is Monday Night Football in Baltimore under the primetime lights at the bank. Vaultrons, thank you so much. And we will catch up with you for our noon Ravens Lunch Hour live stream coming up on Monday the 15th. Talk soon.